The life of a 30-year-old man has passed without abilities and meaning, only a constant struggle for survival. But everything breaks in a moment. It is knocked down in the middle of the street. When death seems inevitable, he suddenly wakes up in a foreign body. The stranger turns to him as Lord Ginka, but he is not familiar with this name. The guy with blue hair is squeezed in a gorgeous bed. Looking around, he understands. This is not his world. The face covers anxiety and confusion. Alarmed maid runs to him and explains that he fainted in the eyes of an important person, which caused a great scandal. He was now deprived of his duties and expelled. Stunned, Jink tries to understand who he has become and what happens at all. Jink Nonland, the heir to the Duke, remembers his humiliating past. From his youth, he served as a prince's guard, but could not express himself, and recently he was brutally removed. Under the pressure of expectations and failures, he slipped to decline. His weakness in the possession of a spear, which should be a hereditary pride, has become a source of anger and despair. Sinking into thoughts, Jink is suddenly aware that he has two sets of memories. In addition to life as Jink, he remembers his past as Seta Jinkwar, which can only mean one thing: reincarnation. Realizing the word exile, he shudder, trying to grasp the seriousness of the situation. Elsa confirms that Jinka was not only kicked out of the prince's guard, but also deprived the title. The father gave up him inherited Lord Esther. The girl is crying from pity. Jink understands that monsters and death are waiting for him outside the capital. This expulsion is equated with a sentence. However, even in the face of danger, he accepts fate. Without panic, Elsa asks to help with his clothes. It's time to go outside the capital. But suddenly a strange screen with Elsa status appears in front of him. Level, profession, characteristics. He thinks that his vision betrays, or is only his vision. Focusing, Jink sees even more details. Level, skills, abilities. It seems not an illusion, but a true ability. He is remembered by legends about magical eyes, a rare force that allows you to see hidden information. This ability may appear after reincarnation. Intrigued, he tries to see his own status. I wonder if he can grasp himself. A blurred screen appears before the eyes. Jink recalls how abilities are strengthened with practice in games. He wants to develop this gift. Focus training, Jink finally sees his own status. Elsa watches, not understanding anything, and he rejoices that he has managed to recognize himself. It turns out to be 9th level, with many skills. But almost everyone is low. For example, having a spear only the 1st level. This indicates the lack of talent. But some skills, such as sword possession and magic, have a level S. Others, like working with a spear or stick F. Magic of healing and wind is also at the level S, which affects it. Studying his own status, Jink begins to understand that his ability to evaluate allows not only the level, but also the potential. He is shocked when he learns that he has an extremely rare gift. The magic of charm that only 3 people have mastered in the world. Gradually understanding the power of new ability, Jink is aware that it can be a chance to survive in the enemy world. He hides joy and asks Els to forget what he saw, while already making plans on how to apply this gift in his favor. The room enters the younger brother of Jinka, Esther. In his hands he has a spear and a purse. The face is serious, and in the voice, a sincere sympathy for the older brother, who is on the verge of exile. Esther confesses that he could not influence the events, but is not going to turn away. He is one of the few in the family who stayed on Jink's side at this difficult time. He conveys money and spear, saying that it is everything that can help. Jink accepts this with respect, realizing that his brother's care is invaluable support among betrayal and humiliation. Ginka thanks for the gift, but says the spear will not help because he does not have a talent for weapons. However, the act of Esther means a lot. He asks his brother to sell everything extra from the property, because without the title, the merchants are no longer interested in it. Jink asks to spend the money that is needed for traveling things. Esther agrees, and soon brings everything that has been ordered. The room is filled with boxes, bags, and barrels. He is worried that his brother will not be able to cope with so many things. But Jink calms him down, asks his servants to leave the room. He knows how to solve this problem. With a mysterious smile, Jink hints that she has a plan, but asks to keep it secret, even from his father. He is confident and determined, and believes that Esther will not betray him. He, though surprised, agrees to remain silent. Jink opens his secret. Store repository. This rare ability allows you to store anything else. For the first time, he shows it to someone. Esther is amazed and asks to look inside. This solves the problem of transporting things. Jink is reviewing the status of Esther and notices that he also has this ability, though he does not realize it. But Jink decides not to disclose this information yet while keeping a secret about his or her own assessment ability. Suddenly, Jink asks his brother a little blood for contracting. He explains that this is not an order, and he can refuse. But Esther immediately agrees, showing his trust and dedication. Ginka sincerely thanks and asks him to be accompanied by the Adventure Guild, as it will be difficult for him to register. Esther, without hesitation, agrees, striking his brother with his support. When the brothers walk in the city, passers-by begin to whisper. Some make fun of Jink's exile. Others are openly despised. Esther tries to comfort him, but Jink accepts it calmly. He knew he was hated. Aware of his disdain for common people in the past, Jink acknowledges that he had once made this condemnation. He was once an arrogant and cruel heir, and now he reaps the fruits. But why is Esther still respected? Why, despite everything, did not turn away like others? Jink cannot find the answer. He understands the love of Elsa, who has grown him, but his brother's sincerity remains a mystery. The brothers arrive in the Guild of Adventures. The atmosphere is formal. The room is spacious. Here it has to take the first step to a new life. Jink submits documents for registration. The servant checks the data and asks to leave a drop of blood on the card. This is necessary to confirm B-level status. It also briefly explains the rules of the guild. Her indifference is noticeable at once. She wants to complete everything as soon as possible. The others also do not pay attention. It all comes down to formalities, but Jink is not worried. The main thing is that he is now an official adventurer. Before dinner, Jink decides to work out with the sword. He realizes that his natural power is in swords, not in spears, and wants to develop true talent. A blow to a blow, he cuts a dummy with incredible accuracy. If he only learned about this power. He sees a new beginning in the sword and is preparing for the changes waiting for him. Jink destroys a training dummy with incredible ease. He admires the agility of his young body and feels every movement becomes natural. The donated shirt from Esther adds strength. He is experiencing an increase in confidence. With each movement, the body listens better. The workout inspires him even more, and the concern of Esther strengthens the determination. Jink is thinking about using his charms in alchemy. Thanks to Esther's blood, he wants to create something valuable for him. In the evening, he plans to immerse himself in magical studies in the walls of the family mansion. During the dinner, the head of the family, Gordon Nonland, seriously turns to his son. In his words, tension is felt. It seems an important conversation or opening is approaching. Gordon announces that this is the last dinner Jinka in the estate. Tomorrow he leaves the house. Jink accepts the news calmly, without surprise. He is already ready. Gordon asks about training with the sword. Jink is short. There was no problem. After that, he apologizes and leaves the room. The atmosphere remains tight, silent preparation for farewell. In his room, Jink is taken for fascination with equipment. Its level is 3, so all things get a bonus body enhancement +3. It touches everything, from the shirt to the sword. His strength grows in his eyes. When Jink puts on all fascinated equipment, his level of strengthening the body jumps up to 52. It is amazed at the result and eagerly waited for the effect of action. He wants to experience strength tomorrow, but he was exhausted in alchemy. He drinks a mana potion and, recovering, plans to create a gift for Esther, even despite fatigue. In the morning, in front of the gate of the western capital, Jink says goodbye to Esther and Elsa. The brother asks to be careful and the maid to return alive. Thank you. Jink moves forward, thinking about the spear of Mitriel's grandfather. He decides to melt his tip to get the money to start. Before leaving, Jink gives Esther a small gift for gratitude for all the support and loyalty that he showed. The gift is a map and a small box. Jink explains that Esther should only use them after he leaves the country. The box should be activated by a drop of blood. Although the point is unclear, Esther believes brother. Emotional farewell ends with warm words and wishes. Jink says goodbye to his relatives, determined to move forward. Esther, with tears, begs Jinka to protect himself. Holding gifts, he bows his head while Elsa supports him. The heart is heavy, but Jink does not stop. Walking through the gate of the capital, Jink looks at the distant mountains. He is dressed in enchanted armor. He calls it a real beginning. The journey began. The first goal is the city of Rio, to which 2 days to go, and then 4 more through Belch County to the border zone of Morbets. Jink is aware of the risks, but wants to check the boundaries of your own body. He is tuned morally, determined to find out how strong his fascinated body has become, and overcome all obstacles without frightened. As soon as the path begins, he notices the influence of charm. The speed is striking. The legs fly by themselves. He begins to smile with relief. His movements are so fast that he even suggests he will be able to get the destination a day earlier. New body, new abilities. Jink is really free for the first time. Only a few hours have passed, and it is still not tired. Endurance is simply incredible thanks to fascination. But suddenly it is stopped by a terrible picture, a destroyed cart and body around. The horror prevails. In front of him, a crushed caravan and a bloody meat grinder. Jink is panicked, the heart beats crazy, and the cry is pulled out of the breast. He saw him deeply. He tries to gather, repeating to himself that it is necessary to keep calm, but the tremor does not pass. He lacks mental stability. Only the body is ready for battle. The mind does not stand it yet. And suddenly goblins jump out of the bushes. They rush at him with shouts. Jink realizes that it was these creatures that have arranged a slaughterhouse. He grabs a sword, still in a state of shock. Despite fear, he is preparing for the battle. This is his first real test. Adrenaline takes the mountain, and it is not just survived but punish the murderers. Jink is rushing forward. The sword cuts goblins with accuracy and power. Even with their strength, the level of body enhancement 8, they do not pose a threat. Its strengthening significantly exceeds enemies. If it does not lose vigilance, there is no threat. But he remains careful, knowing that even one mistake can cost life. In the midst of battle, his body acts itself. He evades instinctively, contradicts lightning. One of the goblins falls without even having time to react. Jink is amazed at his own reaction. Strown, he is aware that speed and reflexes have increased to a new level. His hands acted earlier than thought. A smile appears on the face. It really evolves. With each blow, he feels his technique and strength working in harmony. Fragrant is not just useful. They open up a new world. Jink begins to enjoy the battle. After the fight, he sits down, looks at herself, reviews status, and understands. The expulsion did not break it. On the contrary, gave impetus to growth and self-affirmation. He accepts fate with confidence. It doesn't matter how many more battles will be. Jink is ready. With his abilities, he will pave himself a way in this world. Having come to your senses, Jink is aware of a new reality. Blood, body, and death are a commonplace. This is part of the world he will have to get used to. If he wants to survive, he should take cruelty. After calming down, he looks forward with determination. This is only the beginning of his true journey. He understands that the collection of monsters is not a crime but a rule. If you do not pick them up, someone else will do it. In this world, the resource does not waste. Parts can be taken to the guild for money. For Jinka, this is a way to stay afloat. And although he is unpleasant, he knows, otherwise not survive. Still disgust, he does this work. Test not only for the body but also for the soul. But he reminds himself again. This is only one of the links in the survival circle. Taking goblins' ears and magical stone, he thinks about how adventurers who do not do it. They make a smile in the guild. Survival is partially a ritual. He will have to get used to the dark side of this profession. And although it hurts as a necessity, the next morning Jink is already more confident, gets used. He goes into battle with wolf monsters. Although the force gained changed it, it was not cheap. He feels survival forms a new person, stronger, but not without internal losses. Jink is happy to note that the level of his magical charm for 8th. It exacerbates armor and weapons, preparing for new battles. Each strengthening is another step to survival. With determination in his eyes, he continues the path, confident that he will cope with any threat. He improves the sword, adding to it the technique of the art of the sword plus 8, so that his strength grows even more. Jink feels that it is now a real hero's weapon. He leaves an ancient sword as a spare, and goes on. A day later, he finds himself in a dense forest in the territory of Morbets. Here he plans to stop for the night. Other adventurers rest nearby. Jink decides to be supported by a monad tincture to restore strength before breaking the camp among the trees. But calm violates the cry. One of the adventurers in despair asks for healing because his comrades die. The situation is urgent, and Jink realizes that he cannot stand aside. Jink assesses the situation and promises to help if they can thank. The man, with despair in his eyes, agrees to any conditions to save his comrades. Make sure that they are not criminals. Jink decides to help. It passes the healing potion to one of the wounded, hoping that it will be enough to save life. He first sees the wounded such severe level. Carefully monitors how magic begins. Minutes seem eternity. The life of a guy on the hair. The potion works, healing the young man instantly. He grasps on his feet, and his brother rushes to him with relief. Jink is surprised at no less than others. The leader of the detachment, Alexander, thanks Jink for salvation. He seems like a captain of the Dragon Tears of the Drags detachment, the adventurers of the rank of SI. They fought with the Red Ogre class creature. Alexander gives Jinka all the money he has been raised. However, He acknowledges that this amount is not enough to fully pay for the potion. Jink, interested in details, asks for explanations. Alexander tells how their detachment accidentally came across a red plow. The battle almost destroyed the team. They were completely not ready for such a threat. In gratitude, Alexander proposes to become a slave Jinka until he returns his debt. Jink is confused. He is worried by the very fact of slavery, even despite the sincerity of intentions. He does not want to own another person, even as strong as Alexander. But at that moment, the conversation interrupts the alarming sound. A whole orcha horde comes from the forest. The scene turns into chaos. The orcs are approaching the roar, ready to attack. There are too many of them, and the detachment should be prepared for defense immediately. One of the fighters with a pointed look understands. The orcs came to the smell of blood. They are more than expected. Fear hangs in the air, and time for preparation is floating. The young warrior assesses the situation. He has already encountered orcs, but not in so many. Although it has a strengthened body, he understands without proper equipment, this is not enough. He has no weapon. Everything is lost in the battle with Ogrim. But suddenly, the main character uses the ability of Item Box, shocking everyone. No one knew that he had such technique. Gink calls several weapons and distributes them to all members of the detachment. Thanks to this, everyone now has a chance of survival. The detachment is ready to meet the enemy. Without a second, he rushes. His blows are fast, harsh, and deadly. With a powerful jump, Jink is open Orca's head. A shadow moves between enemies, confidently and constantly. The detachment follows Jinka, who fights at incredible speed. The orcs fall one by one, and everything burns around in chaos. His technique is striking, and everyone begins to act harmoniously so as not to keep up. Although the orcs are the creatures of lower rank, they do not pose a threat. Jink destroys them with ease, inspiring allies. It remains focused on victory and experience, because it is his path to power. He orders others to beat as many orcs as possible so everyone can gain experience. In battle, each blow is directed accurately, strategically, turning chaos into a coordinated fighting machine. Through joint efforts, the detachment survives. But a new threat, a lord of orcs, is suddenly emerging. They are faced with General Orkiv, the enemy of the rank B. His massive figure, a murderous aura, and combat experience immediately make it clear. This is not an ordinary opponent. Jink assesses the situation, trying to understand whether he can handle him. He doubts at heart, but does not intend to retreat. The brothers are amazed at his determination. Despite fear, Jink goes out to a duel with the general. He is ready to risk everyone to protect others. This is the battle he has to win. The clash is rigid. Every stroke is accompanied by sparks and voltage. Jink shows excellent skill and reflects attacks that could kill anyone else. But the power of the enemy is huge. The general beats so powerfully that Jink is barely defending himself. He understands. Without prior encroachment would be dead. It becomes obvious he still lacks forces to defeat his own. And although fascination saved his life, he will not last long. Fortunately, one of the allies distracts the general, creating a window for the attack. The battle lasts with no less intensity, but now they have a chance. The shield with a shield finds a moment for attack. The general finds himself in the environment, but does not seem. One of the warriors with all force rushes with a decisive blow. The sword is deeply pierced by the body of the general. He still tries to resist, but the power of the united blow takes the mountain. The ear falls, overthrown and defeated. Exhausted, Jink is breathing hard, watching the orcs in a panic flee. The death of the leader broke their morale. The victory is won. One of the fighters states that orcs flee the leader's death. Everyone slowly comes to consciousness, aware of how close they were to death. The brothers praise Alex for his key help in battle, and Jinka, with exceptional equipment. He confesses with a smile that just a newcomer G. However, respect for it is only growing. The detachment divides the trophy of victory. After the battle, the conversation becomes warmer, and the fighters will learn more about Jink's past. When asked who he is, Jink is calmly admitted. He is a kicked son of the genus Nonland. His name no longer protects. However, he is not ashamed of his fall. Now he is free. Rumors of expulsion will spread, but Jink reacts with indifference, smiles. He is no longer important with glory or status. His path is completely different. In response, Alex unexpectedly calls him Aniki, his older brother. It is a gesture of deep respect and gratitude that Jinka really moves. Alex is moving to follow Jinka wherever he went. Jink is surprised and a little aware of such sudden devotion, but tries to keep calm. He begins to think about a plan of action on how to accompany Alex to the city, planning his own steps in parallel. The warm exchange of replicas contrasts with the cruelty of the previous battle. hinting at the beginning of a new friendship. Jink does not accept Alex as a servant, but asks only one service: accompaniment to the capital and some tips on the life of the adventurer. He also asks to transmit an important message to Esther Nonland. Alex rejoices in this assignment. His sincere thank you sounds loud. He is happy to help who he calls Anika. Meanwhile, 3 strangers are watching Jinka nearby. One of them, the elf, calls him a beautiful guy. Their intentions are unclear, but clearly one thing: new events are already on the approach. After a battle with General Orcs, the Ginka group is forced to recruit the remains of an eagle invasion that continue to threaten the border area. Their route runs to the border city of Maroyberg, an important strategic point for protecting the region. This is where the detachment goes. The road leads them to the Hoblin Forest, a dangerous place full of monsters and riddles. Jink goes ahead, carefully analyzing the surrounding atmosphere. He is aware that some goblins do not pose a threat, but as soon as they enter the forest, the situation changes dramatically. Crowds of monsters begin to emerge from all sides. Goblin pressure threatens to turn a hike into slaughterhouse. Jink does not delay. It quickly organizes defense. Confidence in voice, determination in actions. He leads a group in the heart of battle. Jink states that they will break through this horde. But one of the brothers reminds, even small enemies in the mass are dangerous. The tension increases, the fight becomes inevitable. The group gets to battle. One of the warriors warns Jinka to be careful. They are waiting for the battle not for life, but for death, and any mistake can be expensive. The battle in the forest explodes with new force. Jink is rushing forward. Lightning blows scatter enemies. It destroys dozens of goblins with skillful accuracy. Adventurers of rank D. The group acts in harmony, and even so goblins too much. Jink sees this chance. Every enemy is experience and profit. Even when hordes fall one by one, the tension does not fall. They press from all sides, and the group barely stand. But they do not seem. They continue to cut the goblins, squeezing the last forces. Finally, there is a short break. Everyone survives. It was one of the most difficult battles, and each of them is on the verge of exhaustion. One of the adventurers is surprised to ask how Jink remained almost intact. He smiles, says that the reason is in his enchanted equipment. He tells how he improved everything, from glasses to sword. Everyone around him is looking at him. It was this preparation that allowed him to stand in a hell. After the battle, a detachment of experienced adventurers approaches Jink. They are headed by Karen from the Holy Flame team. She says she has already heard about his feats. One of the members of the group guesses that Jink is a charm. It causes a wave of surprise. Few people are able to combine combat skills with skill. Villa approaches Jinka, reaches out his hand and wants to learn more about his ability. He is also interested in the power of the detachment, and he wants to see her with his own eyes. Jink, surprised by such a straightness. He hesitates for a moment, but shakes his hand. He has a thought. Where did the Villa learn about his enchantment? His interest in new acquaintances is only growing. Sacred Flame, a detachment of rank A. Bogart, a level 158, has powerful battle techniques. Richeron is an elf princess with a level 214, a master of treatment and detection, a descendant of the kingdom chemistry. Villa is a mag 165 with a unique weapon identification ability. Thanks to it, he instantly recognizes the level of strengthening of the Ginkavo equipment, estimating how strong these are. He quickly notices that all the gear of Jinka has +8 to physical strengthening. It is striking. Such techniques are very rare and need great skill. Jink is surprised that Will has recognized his strength. It only deepens his interest in this detachment. When Will asks one of the things, Jink agrees, but puts the conditions and a fair price. The detachment is interested because there are extremely few enchanting on the continent. They understand the value of such an ally and are ready to comply with the conditions. Jink explains that fascination is activated only with the owner's blood drop. This makes magic unique and makes it impossible to abuse. But he is still hesitant. Should strangers be trusted? He reflects on the safety of the transfer of such force and thinks to go to Maroyberg. In parallel, he realizes that in a world where power is easy to steal, caution is mandatory. After the explanation, the detachment agrees to its conditions. Karen openly states that she dreamed of having such an ally in her team. They agree to any cost just to conclude an agreement. Jink puts another important requirement. His ability must be secret until they have an official arrangement between them. It surprised the detachment, but they agree. Everyone is even more surprised when Jink tells that in addition to magic, he can provide assessment cards with battle skills, strengthening, and even etiquette. Will shocked is a very rare magic. Thanks to his force, the detachment receives powerful equipment. Bogart is a +8 sword to the art of the sword. Karen. Earrings from +2 to alchemy and clothing with a bonus to force. Other members are unique amulets and magic things. One of them receives a necklace of +3 to etiquette and a purse with magical objects. Their strength has grown markedly, all thanks to Jinkov charms. But even such glory has a price. Jink is tired to the border, drinks mana potions one by one, continuing work. He still needs to complete the 3rd level assessment cards. But despite the fatigue, it is decided to bring everything to the end. The detachment, already fully equipped, notices how exhausted Jink is exhausted. They worry about him, but he insists that he can handle. It completes the latest grades. Karen, Bogart, and Villas drip blood on their cards, activating them. The results confirm everything. The cards are valid, the skills are real. Impressions are only positive. The detachment is captured by the accuracy of the process. Will notes that cards show only skills, but not talents. Those unpredictable and may never be revealed. Jink says with a sly smile that he is annoying a little when someone points to your strengths and weaknesses, especially if you do not sympathize with this person. But he is not against reward, even for invisible talents. After completing fascination and calculation, Jink receives a generous fee from the sacred flame. He understands that a rank A detachment has great resources, and now perhaps another ally in his person. Will be surprised. How can such a magician with rare things can travel without security? It causes him not only curiosity, but also light envy. Jink looks free and confident. Suddenly, the conversation becomes an unexpected turn. It turns out that Jinka has been kicked out of his homeland. Karen shocked. How could a talented guy be isolation? Gink deny evil intentions, and Bogart intervenes him, reminding him of helping everyone. Jink himself says that he has been unfairly accused since childhood, and this has become his usual condition. He confesses that he did not tell anyone about his strength, even his family. He was afraid that he would be used. For him, trust is a luxury, and he does not know any person who could be fully entrusted. However, Karen, Will, and Bogart try to support him. They propose to accompany Jinka to the border and invite it to Kul, where it will be taken without prejudice. Weighing everything, Jink agrees to join them. He begins to believe that he may be able to overcome all the difficulties, even monsters near the borderlands. His face glows with a barely noticeable smile. Cautious but full of hope for the first time in a long time. Jink arrives in the border city of Maroyberg in the kingdom of Horde. People give him a sense of rest. No one recognizes him here. He decides to spend money earned on equipment. This is a contribution to survival. Now he has a chance to strengthen himself truly. It is enthusiastically in the store, buying tools, potions, equipment. This is his first big investment in the future. It buys the best armor and weapons that can find. The shop owner rejoices. The buyer is generous, does not count the cost. Jink chooses armor from the skin of the red dragon and a spear expelled. He knows, now he is armed as never before. The seller proudly tells that these are the best products in the city. And it does not exaggerate. The quality is truly impressive. He proposes to deliver things to the hotel, and Jink is confident with confidence. He just puts them in his box. This rare ability is stunning the seller, and Jink feels satisfied. He is completely ready for what he is waiting. The realization that he is no longer vulnerable gives him strength. Now he is ready not only to survive, but also to win. The next morning, after purchases and charm, Jink decides to make something special for Esther, a gift that will give his gratitude. It fascinates the gift the best magic it can use. He understands that there may be no longer such an opportunity, so it is taught full. But excessive use of magic depletes Jinka. He is barely standing when he meets with his comrades. However, it passes a grade card as a sign of gratitude and respect to each of them. Despite fatigue, it stands firmly. He says it's okay. Although his body is exhausted, the spirit is not broken. Together with the detachment, he prepares to cross the border. The scene is transferred to the estate of the non-land family. The senior relative speaks with the servant of Jinka. He is considered worthless to forget. Instead, another brother proclaimed the heir. The celebration is being prepared, and Jink is abandoned, lies in a modest bed, remembering the past and role in the family. We return to non-land's estate again, where a new conflict is gaining momentum. Esther, younger brother Jinka, is interrogated by a senior relative. Obviously, this is one of the authorities in the family. The tone of the conversation is rigid. Esther is angry, but the elderly strictly criticizes him for the boldness and unwillingness to change behavior. Stress reaches peak. The situation develops into a physical contraction. Family cruelty is fully manifested. Esters are punished by house arrest for 50 days. He is given a potion for recovery. And most importantly, they say, Jink is no longer his brother. The relationship is officially broken. Closed in the room, Esther looks sadly out the window. He thinks of Jinka, where he is now, or alive, or lost in the thickets. And despite everything, it keeps faith. He believes that his brother is alive, fights and passes his trials. Hope remains. Meanwhile, Jink is fighting against monsters. His movements are accurate, attacks are ruthless. Among the battle, it remains focused and cold-blooded. One of the allies exclaims, remembering that Esther is also struggling and put into full. In the meantime, the battle continues, and everyone is on the verge of opportunities. Another warrior, probably from Jinka's detachment, rushes forward, lifting the sword for a decisive blow. He cuts the plow in half with a powerful outline. His strength even strikes his brothers. The enemy falls without a chance to repel. Karen, shooting craftsman, unmistakably poured arrows into the heart of enemies. Destruction of goblins and baked goods for her little things. Her confidence only grows with every shot. Meanwhile, Hill uses the switch of the wind. His movements are clear and steep. The air blades cut the enemies, leaving only cuts and blood. Vila's magic is striking. It is perfect in every movement. The enemies fall one after the other, and the allies are strikingly watching its destructive force. After the battle, the detachment rests. Jink thinks that he has to improve his magic, especially the flame. Vila supports him. Soon he will increase his level as a magician. Karen and Bogart confirm that the remnants of enemies ran. The path is cleared. The border area is now safe for beginners and traders. They explain that in the border areas it is always dangerous, especially for low-rank adventurers. Without protection, there is better not to stumble. Karen warns that weevils and other strong creatures often appear in border areas. We need at least one high-rank warrior to protect trading caravans. Jink is concerned, but Karen calms him down. To the border. Finally, the detachment reaches the border town of Kolta. Jink is worried. Will it be possible to go through? Because rumors go that exiles can never leave the country freely. But Karen and Bogart are confident in their abilities. The adventurers of their rank are equated with nobles, and Karen, as a representative of the Rant S, is considered equal to the dukes. They have a serious impact. Will proposes to go without conflicts, but Karen and Bogart are ready to act decisively if you have to. The group approaches the border check. They are referred for common people, requiring documents. The standard verification procedure begins. Jink shows documents, noting that he is now a common man because he is devoid of title. The guard recognizes him, Jink Nonland. They are surprised that he got here so quickly. After all, he left the capital just a few days ago. He is asked to go to the office to find out the circumstances, but Karen intervenes, demanding explanations. Jink fulfilled the order and just leaves the country. She suggests that he could use a horse or a kid. After learning that Karen is an adventurer of the rank S, the guards begin to get nervous. One Knight tries to blame her. They say, the commoners have no right to argue. But its status instantly changes the atmosphere. The voltage in the air increases. Angry, Karen hints that he will test the sword on the guards. They immediately pale. One of them promises to call the warden immediately. Vila tries to quench the situation, promising to negotiate himself. The inspector arrives and strictly reproaches the subordinates for boldness, apologizes to the group, but draws attention to Jinka. Why do koala representatives accompany the one who is considered a traitor to be roasting? Jinka is accused of attempting to poison the head of the family Nonland for the sake of inheritance. It is a serious prosecution that only complicates his situation and increases tension near the border. Despite everything, the detachment finally crosses the border and is part of the kingdom of Qualis. Ginka sincerely thanks Will and Karen, realizing that he would never have achieved it. Will offers the idea. Jinka should be an adventurer in a Kual and gradually increase the rank. Then, when it becomes influential enough, it will be possible to reveal that he is a magician. Otherwise, Roast can try to return or kill it. To protect themselves, they decide to register Jinka in Koala Guild. This not only guarantees safety, but also allows you to use its rare profession at the official level. On the way, Bogart remembers a bracelet that fascinated in training. Jink is interested in, and he gives him decoration. When arriving in the guild, they are welcomed by the administrator. The guild premises are full of adventurers. The atmosphere is noisy, intense, complete. The whole room pays attention to the arrivals. Everyone notices Karen. Her reputation attracts her eyes. Some of the attendees are surprised why Jink is so close to her. Their guesses are filled with envy. They are officially registered as part of the Sacred Flame Detachment. A request for a rank for Jinka is immediately submitted. The group goes to the backyard of the guild to demonstrate prey from hunting raids. Jink begins to teach collected trophies. Inspectors explain that newcomers usually bring several parts of monsters to evaluate. But Jinka has a completely different scale. Jink pulls about 10 bags with trophies, goblins, snails, and other creatures. He apologizes that he has not yet managed to disassemble the orcs, but asks to appreciate everything. With a dramatic gesture, he pours a huge pile of orc bodies right in front of all. They are shocked. So many defeated enemies are striking. Jink destroyed their own, a force that no one was waiting for a newcomer. Officials are stunned and commented on how incredible the capacity of its storage is. They do not have time to realize what they saw. After the evaluation, the guild provides a report. 8 and 12 goblins, 7 magicians, 12 shamans, 41 kobolds, 37 snails, 119 orcs, and 1 general. After deducting the fees, Jink receives 24 gold coins and 3 silver ingots. Amazed, how could a newcomer gather so many prey? Guild reports that Jink should increase the rank. He thinks about the wealth he now has. Recently, he was a simple guy, and now, an influential fighter with wealth in his pocket. But to get the rank SI, you will have to take a test. Guild reports that the arena test requires an increase. It will be a demonstrative battle with an experienced rival. Ginka immediately agrees. He is full of energy and wants to prove that he is ready for higher rank. His confidence inspires. It is included in a special hall for fighting, and other adventurers sit down to look. Rumors are spreading around the hall. Someone whispers about Karen. Someone remembers Jink's past. But he is calm, waiting for the opponent with the sword in his hands. The head of the guild, Snow. He states that he will evaluate Jinka today. All stunned is a great honor. Snow says he has heard of Jink's abilities and cannot lose a chance to see them in action. In order not to waste time, it combines the rank D and C in one battle. The news is spreading. There is a stir in the hall. Guildmaster against a newcomer? It will be spectacular. Everyone is breathing in anticipation of battle. Snow warns. The test is dangerous. If something happens, it will be the responsibility of Ginka himself. Karen is nervous, but he promises that if Jink is injured, she will instantly heal him. In her voice, worry is sincere and deep. It causes a wave of jealousy among the audience. They whispering, "Why is Karen so worried about this newcomer?" The scenes are storming, but Jink does not pay attention. He goes into the arena, confident, focused, ready to fight the strongest. With the official start of a duel, the rivals occupy a position. Silence thickens before the storm. Jink does not hurry to attack the first, which immediately notices Snow. In his gaze, curiosity appears. Guildmaster takes the initiative and rushes rapidly, checking the strength of the opponent. A frantic exchange of blows begins. Snow is moving lightly. Its attacks are hardly visible. Jink has hardly to respond. The blades face in a frantic rhythm. Jink reflects the efforts of will, trying not to lose the rhythm in this deadly dance. Maneuvering, he looks for a gap in defense. But sleep does not give a rest. The pressure is felt with every blow. The audience is amazed. The power and grace of Snow forced Jinka to retreat constantly. His skill is a real sight. For the first time, Jink is beating not with a monster, but with a person. This is a completely different test, but it does not seem his will remains adamant. Snow is surprised. Rarely does it stand with him for so long. Jink struck him with stubbornness and strength. Inspired by this, Jink goes on the offensive, deciding to attack hard. The battle is gaining new energy. His movements become bolder and more accurate. He is looking for at least the slightest weakness, but Snow is unwavering. Guildmaster evades easily as if dancing. Its technique is ideal, at 104. Such a sword is a rarity even among the best. Jink does not seem. He notices how Snow changes the position after each attack. All combinations are sophisticated, but have a rhythm that can be calculated. Observers suggest that he will win the dream. He has not yet been impressed. But Jink begins to read his style and finds patterns. He understands. The pride of Snow makes him predictable. With the knowledge of the enchanted sword and his own level 27, Jink chooses the perfect moment for attack. Snow recognizes Jinka's power, but says it's time to complete the duel. However, Jink does not plan to retreat. It shortens the distance, trying to get closer to where you can attack without delay. Jink goes to the squall of fast, risky blows, trying to break through the Guilder's defense. At the most elaborate moment, Duel Ginka causes an accurate blow, for the first time injures the sleep. He, struck and wounded, recognizes defeat, raises his hand and stops the fight. The audience is in amazement. Many do not believe what they see. Snow wounded? Jink proved that it was a mistake to underestimate him. Karen rushes to sleep, offering healing, but he refuses. The potion will be enough. He recognizes the defeat with dignity. Jink leaves the arena for mixed views. Someone is amazed, someone envy. Karen comes happily to him, hugs, and insists on healing even despite the absence of wounds. Everyone discussed what they saw. Gink has won the Hildmistra, a feat that they will now talk about for a long time. The villa is approaching a friend. He asks if Jink has a secret. He admits that he used fascination with weapons. This is surprising, but at the same time explains success. Jink is a magician, so his victory is no accident. Snow learns that Jink has the ability to evaluate. When he was told that his level is 175, he is sincerely shocked. Villa confirms. Jink has appreciated it, significantly improving the characteristics. Snow acknowledges that he would have won without magic. But despite this, he praises Jinka, and officially recognizes him as a magician and appraiser. Respectable titles in the guild. Jink smiles relieves. Happy Jink celebrates his promotion, and suddenly learns that it is only temporary. Surprise changes joy. Will explains. As a magician, Jink should automatically get S level. Such talent cannot be ignored. The rank of the magician is the highest in the guild, because magicians are extremely valuable adventurers who are almost no equal. Villa explains. A temporary increase is designed to protect Jinka. After all, rare abilities attract not only allies but also enemies. Until the rank becomes official, it is temporarily staying on C level. But the state guarantees him protection, so annoying protection will be avoided. Hill emphasizes the importance of combat assessment, because it will officially confirm Jinka's status in the guild. Interesting. Jink asks why Will is so trying for the sake of him. He does not hesitate with the answer. Will says he wants to see Jink writing his own triumph story. His path should be a legend. Reflecting, Jink asks himself, will he be able to reach the SS rang? Will believe, with such a potential it is quite real. Jink learns that SS rang stands above S. This is a special level that is reached. No one controls him, he gives full freedom. Will asks, is Jinx ready to pay the price for such force? Recalling injustice, escape from Rosalt and slander, Jink decides to change his future. It swears it will reach the SS rang using the magic of the charm and will eventually be released from the shackles of the past. Focused, Jink sits at the table, flipping through the records in the book. Meanwhile, behind the group is preparing to go on a carriage. But suddenly the caravan is attacked by kobolds. Jink and his companions are preparing for defense, calling for a carriage. One of the comrades comes into battle, and Jink decides to test the magic of water. This is a great opportunity to check yourself in battle. After focusing, he creates a bullet from the water and throws it in the direction of enemies, hoping for a successful spell. The water sphere involves exactly the target, knocking down the rhythm of the kobolds, those wet and disoriented. But the spell was imperfect. Kobolds only get angry and attack even more aggressive. Jink recalls training and tries to focus on analyzing previous mistakes. It changes the approach, imagines a bullet of water as lead, heavy and fast to cause real harm. The new spell forms a reinforced water ball. She flies rapidly to the enemies, carrying a striking blow. The blow of a powerful ball scatters enemies, forcing kobolds to retreat. The allies go on the offensive, changing the course of the battle. After the battle, Jink thinks how important it is better to control magic to avoid accidental losses among the allies. One of the satellites remembers how the magical battle prevented Jinka to focus on learning, discussing his abilities. Jink explains that he is preparing for the exam, even when traveling to the capital. 2 weeks before, after the test is completed, the group arrives at the estate. The owner of the Bogard welcomes them and says he has fulfilled the promised. They should spend the night in the estate of Count Brand. Walking in the corridors, one of the satellites says that the Earl belongs to the populist faction and does not support the aristocratic. The servant holds guests to the graph, announcing their arrival. Earl Michael Brand welcomes Jinka Heat. He calls himself an adventurer of a B-rang, though still inexperienced. The Graf with a smile presses his hand. They communicate for dinner, in a calm atmosphere, which contrasts with recent fights. Jink recalls recent campaigns during which he ate exclusively canned foods and dreams of normal food. Earl Brand asks his plans. Jink replies that he wants to stay away from Rosalt, to travel with a dose and eventually settle in the kingdom of Yamato. He thinks of how quickly he reached his rank 2 rapidly for a 14-year-old boy, even despite his abilities. The Graf suggests that with such a status he does not need to run to Yamato, but Jink firmly states he wants to see the world and gain a new experience. Then Brand advises him to go to the capital of Quar, where the prestigious Royal Academy of Sweet is located. Despite the difficult introduction, the Graf is sure that Jinka's abilities will be enough to pass the test. Imaging the city of Gamal with his giant dungeons on 80 floors, Jink does not hide excitement. This is a paradise for adventure seekers. Jinka's heart is king. Monsters and secrets are hiding somewhere under the city. But a friend reminds you that to enter the academy, you will have to study seriously. She charming his diligence, but Jink is firmly planning to combine traveling with traveling. Brand proposes to be based on his estate and, if necessary, to refer to his name. And he adds, he has a son, a peer Jinka. Jink is amazed at such support. After the years of cold existence in the body of Ginkir, where there was neither passion nor joy. He for the first time feels truly alive. Greeting is born in the soul. Ginka's friends from the Holy Flame group thank you for their help and go back to Rosalt. There they have to join the Tears of the Dragon. Jink says goodbye, wishing them safety. Returning now, Jink is reading a book. He remembers his past life in an office where discipline has absorbed the individual, but now it is full of a new goal. Even under the roof of the aristocrats of the populist faction, Jink does not stop learning. His perseverance is surprise to all around. On the road after hunting, Jink sits with a book to the fire. When everyone sleeps, he continues his studies, whispering the formulas under his nose. The group arrives in the majestic city of Kavalarith with high walls and towers. Jink, immersed in records, drinks something warm when the officer calls for checking. Other adventurers receive awards. Together with the guard, Jink is amazed at the height of the walls of Querta, which is superior to the Metropolitan. But he is asked to quench his curiosity and first to settle the formalities. Arriving at the residence of Count Brand, Jinka is happy to meet his wife Maria and son Chris. They have already heard about him and show respect. Mary with a smile says he can feel at home. Jink asks him to name it simply by abandoning the formal title. During the excursion, Jink's possession suddenly faints. Chris in a panic runs up, and Maria is covered by fear. He did not even notice how fully exhausted the strength. Chris and Maid fuss, trying to help and call a doctor. In the royal palace, an official informs the monarch about the arrival of the magician who wants to enter the academy. The king thinks about the consequences. Jink is fainting. Its status is shown to the scoreboard. 62 level, sword possession, body strengthening, water magic and magic. Painting in a panic, and Chris insists on a medical check. The day of the entrance exam comes to the magical faculty of the academy. Jink is in the hall among entrants. The examiner announces the beginning. He confidently analyzes the written part, comparing it with the entry into the Japanese school. According to him, the Japanese exams were more complex. Knowing that the practical exam will be decisive, he feels ready. Other participants notice familiar tasks, those who solved with them. After the written test comes the turn of the magic demonstration. Jinka, number 783, called to the stage. He introduced himself as an adventurer SS rank. When Jink is preparing, the hall is filled with whispering. All of him are struck by his status. 67-year-old Marquis Dusty Penham is watching carefully. His experience covers aquatic magic, etiquette, education, enchantment, and magical evaluation. True authority among magicians. Quite about Jinka. The Marquis notes his exceptional abilities and rare potential. Jink begins the demonstration, forms a water ball with incredible accuracy, preparing to impress all present. Enchangers are considered extremely valuable, so it was given the highest temporary rank in the guild to avoid suspicious views. Will explains that this increase is a protection for Jinka. People with rare abilities quickly become a target in lower ranks. Before the official increase, it will be temporarily in the village. The state guarantees him protection, which means no annoying body protesters, relief. Hill adds that in order to officially recognize Jink's abilities, it is necessary to evaluate its combat level. Interested, Jink asks why Will is so trying for him. The answer does not make you wait. Will says directly, he wants to see Jink writing his return story, the story of overcoming. Jink thinks, will he be able to achieve SS rang with current skills? The highest among adventurers. Will sincerely believe, yes. He learns that SS rang is even higher than S and is a symbol of complete independence. Will asks, is Jinx ready to try to reach this level that will give freedom but needs to be superintended? Remembering the persecution, slander and escape from Rosalt, he decides to change his destiny and use the Enchantes to rise to SS. His goal is to finally get rid of the past and the shackles that he was kept. Jink is immersed in formulas sitting at the table, and in the background others are preparing to go on a trip. Chariot, horses, raincoats. The scene is filled with expectations. Suddenly, kobolds attack. The enemies surround the chariot. One of the satellites lifts weapons, the other calls for a carriage. In the midst of the battle, Jink joins. His companion beats lightning, and he decides to test the magic of water. It focuses, causes a water ball, and with force throws it directly into a crowd of kobolds. The water ball involves. Enemies get wet and stop in confusion. Magic works. But Jink is aware. He was wrong in the formula. It just made kobolds, and they are attacking the attack again. Recalling training, he focuses, looking for a way to improve the spell. It changes the shape of magic, imagines the ball as a heavy metal projectile. Water becomes heavier, faster. Improved spell is ready. The sphere with all capacity rushes to enemies. A powerful blow! Kobolds fly away, the morale falls, they are pushed by allies. The enemy retreats. After the battle, Jink thinks that he needs to better control magic in order not to bring friends to danger. One of the satellites is charming that Jinka's training has been interrupted and comments on his ability. Jink explains that he is preparing for entry, and even on the road does not stop training. 2 weeks before, after passing the rank test, they arrived at the estate. The owner of the Boghart welcomes them and reports that he has fulfilled previously stipulated. They will remain with Count Brand for the night. Walking through the corridors, the companion tells that the Count belongs to populists and is not like arrogant aristocrats. He once helped him at the start of the way. The maid announces the arrival of the guests to the Graf. Earl Michael Brand welcomes Jinka. It seems like a B-level, though inexperienced. The Graf presses his hand with a smile. For dinner, everyone enjoy conversations and dishes. Jink sincerely wants to help Nini forget the past and believe in his own value. He tells that he has the ability to see people's talents, and in her case, he saw much more than she herself. He explains that he chose her not just so. Her talent for cooking is outstanding. Other skills are still weak, such as washing, cleaning, or fencing, but have great potential. His words inspire Nenah. She confesses that she wants to change and needs Ginka help. In her look, determination and vulnerability, and he with a smile assures that she is never mistaken. The first thing is healing, new clothes, some preparation. Nina's voice sounds thanks, and in the heart, belief in a new life. Trust is gradually emerging between them. With tears in her eyes, she thanks Jinka, holding the healing potion. Meanwhile, Chris praises her culinary progress. Even the main maid was amazed. Jink is aware of praise and translates the conversation because it feels strange. Nenah, smiling, brings a jar of cookies, which she baked herself. And Jink and Chris are already talking about potions and combat slaves. The scene is transferred to the cloudy underground selling of slaves. The atmosphere is depressing. The conditions are terrible. One of the slaves sits chained, with an empty look. The seller offers more aggressive slaves for combat missions, just looking for Jink for future tasks. We return to the Academy of Cool. Jink stands in front of the hostels, thinking whether there will be enough space for him, Nenah, and servants. He realizes that he has many more costs. New housing, life, and, urgently, a new combat slave. The finances are melting. On the territory of the Academy, Jink is greeted by Chris. They discuss the first day of classes. Jink understands that as a first grader may not attend all lectures but decides to appear. He wants to leave a good impression. While they go, they pay attention to the students. Jink is handsome and S-rang. The curiosity around is growing. The girls whisper. Some want to become his wife, others a mistress. Chris ironically comments on the popularity of a friend. Jinka is not to your liking. He asks Chris to stop the jokes because he remembers the disdain that he endured in Rosalt. Now everything is the opposite. He understands that girls are not interested in him because of his personality, but through status. Imagine how they would spend all his gold. Chris adds that those are the daughters of small nobles. Jink believes that there is no gender in the world of magic. Everyone can earn. If you want gold, fight with monsters. They are approached by a young girl, presented as Agenda Qual, vice champion of entrance exams. Jink is stunned. In front of him, the first princess. The princess asks not to be so formal because they are classmates. Jink recalls what she plans to spend most of his time in adventure. The agent replies that he will also help his father with the government. Jink marks her hard work. Other students will whisper around. Meanwhile, Louis, the heir of the Duke Rancilla, demands a fee for friendship from another student. Complains that this time, less. She says with a smile that he forgives. They are friends from the younger academy. Jink asks who it is. Agenda explains that Louis has always abused the power of the family. Louis calls Jinko Paiska and wants to serve the Raniel family, referring to his adventurer status. He also scornfully calls the peasant. Jink is angry and warns, don't touch. Louis continues to press, considering Jinka only an instrument, but he is not going to obey. Jink is strongly refusing and says Louis not to approach him. The voltage increases. Jink holds confidently. Louis is stubborn. Someone should give up. The patience broke up. Jink beats Louis right in the face. Louis shocked. How did the common people laugh? But Jink calmly states, he is a skilled boxer. And here in all eyes it is visible. Hierarchy does not decide nothing, only strength and rank. The princess approaches Jinka and confesses that she was relieved. Louis and could have attacked her. She invites Jinka to an audience to the king without coercion, simply as respect. Jink is getting filled, explaining that he is trying to save and does not have the proper outfit for the audience. Promises at least update your cloak. The derived asserts that his usual equipment is a form for the adventure. In the end, Jink appears to the king Kul's normal, who welcomes him and thanks for his visit. The king recalls that the nobles asked Jinka to create evaluation cards for them. Although it does not like him, the hero politely says that it allowed to raise money. He is asked to continue to help with fascination. Jink agrees, receiving the official recognition of his abilities. But the king also raises the topic of conflict with the duke's son. This is answered by irony, comparing the duke with one brazen, hinting that such figures do not scare him. He continues the conversation without hiding his desire for justice. The king acknowledges that many abuse power for their own benefit. Jink confesses that he has acted emotionally but does not tolerate injustice. It turns out that the derived and the king himself only tested him. There will be no punishment. The monarch praises Jinka for academic success, and he offers a reward for the first place in the entrance exam. To the surprise of everyone, the hero asks permission to buy a slave from the criminal market. The king asks, shocked by such a requirement. Jink explains that he needs loyal helpers to investigate dangerous locations, and only so he will be able to ensure his safety. The king agrees, but still wonder why Jink chose the slaves. He is alarming this choice. The hero says that ordinary satellites can be spurs from Rosalt. Slaves are true and controlled. Having received permission, Jink goes to the dark and gloomy market. The king wants their friendship to last, and praises Jinka's wisdom. He, accompanied by Nenah, states that he is looking for a capable slave to strengthen his team. The situation in the office of slaves is depressing. With a moan and frightened Nenah, Jink reminds you that he warned her what to expect. Nenah asks if he is not scared. It retains cold-bloodedness. It is not the first time in such places. The seller proposes to choose anyone, mentioning the mockery of slaves as if it were little things. Although Jink's face is calm, he cannot but respond to cruelty. The look falls on Iana. 18 years, level 15, magic of water, wind, and earth. Evaluation of materials of Ginka is interested. The guard orders John to get up. Negotiations begin. Jink asks about the accusation of murder. Ian confesses, killed the stepmother in a fight, defending. Jink recognizes self-defense. Nenah is shocked by the price. 53 platinum coins, unprecedentedly expensive. Ian is ashamed to return to the family. But Nenah assures Jinka that he is not afraid of this guy. With a decisive look, Jink says, "Ian, I buy you." Ian is stunned, but the sincerity of intention is felt. Chris brings news about new orders for evaluation cards. Jink sighs. The work continues. The pressure does not disappear. Meanwhile, Nenah rejoices in new skills and serves a dish of meat orca, which is surprisingly delicious. Ian trains the magic of wind and fencing, demonstrating progress. Jink praises him, especially for the skill with the heavy sword Yamato. But she notices that Ian is thoughtful, as if he was gnawing from the inside. From the shadow behind them is a figure in the hood. The look is mysterious, intense. Intentions are still unclear. Jink is instructing John. In battle, the mistake can be fatal, but it explodes, notwithstanding tension. "I can't, Jink." Around the fussy market, stocks, weapons, potions. This is where Ash, the younger brother of John. In anger, he challenges Jinka, accusing him of his brother. It is called the Shadow of John, weaker and less talented. But that is why his appearance is weight. His brother is ready to fight for the freedom of John. While Ash continues to insist, the crowd is buzzing anxiously. The tension increases every second, and every look is directed at Jinka and brothers. Jink is annoyingly reminiscent that Ian cost 53 platinum coins. It is simply impossible to release him. John silently watches while the servant turns to Jinka as lord. Ash in tears requires freedom for brother, and Jink tries to keep the situation, calling into question the maturity of Ash. Meanwhile, John becomes a down, apologies for his brother's actions, and promises to obey the owner's orders. In despair, Ash screams so that Ian does not humiliate. Jink is stunned. Why is he seen as a villain? The crowd kept breathing. Ash shouts that the slave seal is not easy, but recognizes the love of the brother despite the fact that he killed the stepmother. He confesses that he would like to hit John, but love is stronger than the image. Their connection is unbreakable. Pain and care erase all the wrongdoing. Ash with sadness says that he could not buy his brother. His father promised to raise money, and the promises remained in words. Listening to Ash, Jink pulls the sword with confidence in his eyes. He decides to give the boy a chance to release anger in a fair battle. Ash accepts a challenge, angry and decisive. At that time, John, anxious, Ginka sounds, but he retains complete peace. Jink is instantly rushing forward, shattering the spear and shortening the distance for the attack. In his eyes, confidence. While Ash is struggling, the battle turns into a lightning duel with accurate blows. Ash strikes a spear, but struck by Jinka's skill. His face is filled with surprise. Damn! He realizes that he loses. Jink does not give chances while keeping control over the fight. After a powerful blow, the Ash falls. Its weapons are discarded. Ian looks seriously, maybe amazed. Jink asks whether he wants to continue. Tired Ash sits in silence, disarmed. Guild members appear, which restrain Ash. He fights, screaming about freedom. One of them reports Jinka that the situation was transmitted under the control of the guild. Ayana is called to a listening to the incident with your brother. All actions will be officially considered. Ian agrees, promising to collect things. Jink says they will continue the conversation later. Returning home, Jink announces loudly, "I have come back," but he is greeted by a shock. Nenah in tears begs to save John, who, holding a knife, shouts that he is ready to die for dishonoring his family. Jink rushes to him in a panic, restrains and asks to calm down. He states that Iana's death will make all investments in vain, and he adds that he should work everything until the last. The work will be difficult, from protection to dirty tasks. Ian, exhausted, asks for punishment, pleads guilty. Jink explains that Iana bought just to save. Nenah lightly asks if he really has to die. Ian sincerely thanks for the care of Ash. It moves him. Jink promises that Ash will not be executed. He will be given time to reflect in a single chamber. Ian confesses, Ash is invaluable for him. Although he was spoiled through his stepmother, he still remained his brother. Jink shares his own. He also has a younger brother, Esther, extremely capable. He expresses anxiety for Ash after everything that has happened. He says, "I hope everything is well with him." Mina asks to eat, but Jink is too concerned. The architecture shows that it is either a mansion or a formal estate. A young man named Esther stands next to Elsa, who lies in bed, painful and exhausted. He tries to comfort her, assuring that everything is fine with his brother. Elsa's facial expression is full of anxiety and sorrow. Esther thinks about his own situation and remembers Natavelis, a brother's breadwinner who became his second mother. The noble politely warns Esther not to leave the estate without permission, adding that they will soon bring dinner. The guy calmly replies that staying is not a problem, because the father is not long gone. With ridicule, the servant advises him to forget about the worthless offender they discuss, hinting that the past does not matter. Recalling old orders, Esther hints that the harassment was not his initiative. It could be the decision of his father or grandfather, which causes him a bitter sentiment. In flashbacks, Esther is enthusiastically watched by his older brother, who never misses training. It inspires him to secretly train with the spear. The older brother appears skilled, hard-working, and consistent, an example of a real warrior. Esther, meanwhile, feels anger to the city that is branded by the exile of Nonland's house. In the end, he exceeds his brother in possession of a spear, but he does not show anger. On the contrary, it remains good. But everything changes, and the fate of the brother breaks sharply. Esther feels guilty. He acknowledges that his actions, along with his grandfather, led to it. The grandfather began to treat Esther gently, while isolation of the elder and spreading rumors about his expulsion. Esther thinks about what they can talk about in the royal palace. A few days have passed since they were summoned. His face is full of anxiety. The plot hints that he has an important responsibility that can change a lot. In the palace, General Noble Nonland, the former head of the house, discusses the expulsion of the magician. He escaped to the Caviac, from where it will be extremely difficult to return. The general compresses his fist in anger. In the kingdom of Rosalt, Prince Elliot condemns the course of the discussion, while the king silently reflects on the situation. One of the nobles claims that once the kingdom has supported the expulsion of Ginka, now it should have consequences for it. The prince is amazed with contempt that Jink is still alive. The king, and angry, orders to stop disrespectful statements. The three attendees discuss that his father's blood flows in the veins of Jink, and therefore he and his father can have a talent for magic. They are dressed in combat clothing. It hints that they are preparing for future battles using magic. Shocking disclosure. Jink is the king's illegitimate son. All are amazed, especially the monarch who is stunning the information. The prince, with an ironic smile, apologizes to his father. The scene emphasizes tension in the royal family and a possible dynastic crisis. He states that it will be the light of salvation for the country. He recalls that he has heard the conversation between the king and the noble. He now orders to convene the best sages and magicians of Rolling, starting an ambitious and potentially dangerous plan. The prince announces that he will find a way with his father to become a magician. His laughter becomes hysterical. The faces of those present, including the king, express shock and anxiety. The scale of madness is obvious. The king is confused, the rest are discouraged. The atmosphere in the hall is aggravated. The fuss grows. One of the participants of the meeting reproaches the king, asking what this discovery means. The old man sighs. If Ginka was given the title of Visconta and kept in isolation, all this could be avoided. He regrets that he opposed the expulsion, and now the enemy faction has become known. Meanwhile, Jink mentions the mistakes of the home of Nonland and the royal family who have hidden for years. He was informed that high-rank adventurers came. He is surprised. Hearing that they are from the Guild of the Holy Flame, Jink allows them to make them the importance of visiting. Adventurers come to Esther. They say they carry a gift from Jinka. Alec jokes about the appearance of the Esther that amazes the guy. They mention the great announcement of guild inequalities, news that Esther has not yet heard. Adventurers report that Jink is alive and is in Querta. It returns hope in the heart of Esther. Esther does not believe his ears. Tears of joy appear in his eyes. Adventurers confirm that everything is fine with Jink. This shows a deep connection between the brothers. His eyes are filled with tears of relief, and his face, happiness. The news is finally confirmed. Jink is safe. Other characters understand silent, allowing Esther to think about who should tell this news first. A group gathers near him. Everyone is sincerely pleased with Jinka. Esther, along with others, sits at the table, and the villa is preparing to tell shocking details that will change their idea of everything that has happened. It becomes known that Jink is now the fourth most powerful magician in the world. Esther and Elsa are amazed, while feeling pride and relief. The discussion of Jinko's abilities begins. It turns out that it has the magic of prowess and alchemy, a combination which is extremely rare. Everyone recalls how Jinx carefully hid his abilities. They are stunned that no one has guessed his true strength before. Elsa anxiously suggests that if this information got into someone else's hands, everything could turn into a catastrophe. She remembers evil rumors from Rosette. Among them are poisoning of the Chancellor family. Esther notes how much strained Elsa, and realizes that the situation is becoming more anxious. The terrible truth sounds. The king tarnished the honor of the Chancellor's daughter, and it was she who gave birth to Jinka. Esther is shocked and the air in the room becomes heavy. The angry Elfian breaks after a shocking confession that Esther and Jink are not native brothers. It explodes. The situation is exacerbated. The tension increases. Esther tries to comprehend the new reality while others try to reassure him in vain. In his eyes, confusion and anger. Everything he believed in suddenly crumbles, opening the bitter truth. Another devastating detail came. Drunk by the king forced his daughter to the Chancellor, which became the beginning of a deep scandal. If they learn about it, his marriage will be destroyed and the throne will be at risk. Everything gets political danger. The woman who gave birth to Jinka was sent to the House of Nonland to leave for Lord Gordon, but Lord Noble was against and took secret measures. During the banquet at the Chancellor House, Lord Noble mixed the poison into wine and dishes. His plan was deadly and under. Fortunately, Jink was staying at home that day to train. This saved his life and confirmed that he was conceived by evil. The woman confesses that her husband and son, the servants of the Chancellor family, were present at the poisoned feast, and no longer returned. She acknowledges that she agreed to the exile of Jinka to save her own life. The adventurers are outraged by such betrayal. Elsa, with tears in her eyes, forgives Lee for having become part of a conspiracy against Jink and could not protect him. Esther comforts her, they say. She is not guilty of anything. However, in his soul, a bitter realization that everyone just wanted to get rid of Jinka. The heroes are discussing a political explosion that has covered the palace. The capital was stirred up by the truth about the origin of Jinka, and the people demanded the answer. The tension increases after the prince has exposed the truth. One of the characters confesses that he bought this information from small nobles, which further destabilizes the situation. The country is rapidly immersed in a crisis, and the sharp jokes about Lord Nobla only emphasize how funny and pathetic his position has become. Evacuation plans to Koa and Granda begin. The political storm is forcing you to act quickly, and there is no time to hesitate. The adventurers group proposes to accompany Esther. He also acknowledges that he does not have any attachment to the family or the country. Time to move on. On a common shock, Esther states that he wants to become a slave Lady Karen, the leaders of the Sacred Flame. Its reaction is a mixture of surprise, joy, and embarrassment. Elsa also asks to accept it as a slave. She sincerely seeks to atone for the sins of Nonland's family and prove her loyalty. Even if you have to give up freedom. The atmosphere becomes tense. Emotions are sharpened to the edge. The butterfly, it would seem, is also preparing to leave the country. His movements are calm, but in his eyes the collapse of all hopes. Recognizing that the house is no longer saved, he gathers valuable things. Another character caps with Esther, adding even more uncertainty. The maid responds to the situation. Its indignation raises a number of questions, and chaos increases in the room. Others say, hinting that Esther had to wear these clothes forcefully. His embarrassment only pours oil into the fire. The scene becomes truly funny. The hero in the women's dress feels confused. He grunts by dressing until others hide the grip. Elsa seems to be delighted. Heroes are moving on the trip with a hypogre or harness. The spectacular scene combines imagination, action, and humor. The journey is fast and urgent. Karen actively uses healing abilities to make everyone get intact. The guild carriage surprises everyone with its strength. The hypogre is rushing forward, and passengers cannot believe how all this can withstand the blows of fate. One of the characters is thinking about relationships with Jink. Now he will have to turn to him as Lord Jesus. The name of Zinka is mentioned, emphasizing they no longer take. The moonlight that illuminates the carriage symbolizes the end of their brotherhood. Adventurers gathered on the town of Podmel. The atmosphere is energetic. The girl smiles, communicating with his comrades. One shows forward, struck by local wonders. The focus is a majestic building. The man seriously comments on the influx of monster hunters. Another inquisitive young man recalls the legend of a huge hole, the former entrance to the dungeon. The protagonist shares that his family has a branch here. Helping his father, he has been to the city more than once, so he knows every corner. His confidence testifies to true love for this adventurous capital. When traveling, he usually traded with medium adventure clans that had stable structures and steel contacts. His inquisitive satellite asked what a clan was. The hero explained that it is an association of adventurers, from several teams in small people to hundreds of people in large organizations. The discussion continued. The older man remembered that although the clans were supporting, some abused the influence by intimidating merchants. Heroes decide to go to the guild to gather information. Finally, they arrive in the guild, a monumental building, even larger than that in Kalrit. Everyone becomes clear. The best adventurers are collected here. The noise reigns inside the guild, as in the food. Heroes are amazed at organization and life inside, feeling that they have come to the place of real adventures. They approach the rack. Clerk, smiling warmly, asks about the order. But learning that they are adventurers changes the facial expression to the surprised. Others are preparing for tasks. Suddenly, drunken Dawn comes up and starts mocking the protagonist, advising them to hire security, so that they do not die on the first day. The employee tries to resolve the situation by contacting a drunk name. The hero calmly shows a map of the guild, demonstrating that it should not be underestimated. When the news spread about its S level, everyone in the hall rotates, all shocked. So young, and already the higher league? However, he modestly explains that rank has reached a rare skill. Although the experience is not enough, it is invited to the 5th floor for privileged. The team expects in a cozy room. Nenah is delighted with the softness of the sofa, but the hero reminds her to behave restrained. Below, the adventurers are enviously looking at those who have been upside down. Meanwhile, Lord Jink himself appears in the guild. The hero greets Mona, a helper for high-rank adventurers. She offers help in all cases and without excessive official. Her warm reception creates an atmosphere of trust. The hero decides to prepare the dungeon as best you can, to find out all the necessary equipment and possible dangers. He has explained that the monsters are reborn constantly, and the prey disappears quickly. This means continuous danger and requirement of constant readiness. Mona talks about treasures, magic stones, weapons, and details. Deeper levels are more complex, and monsters are stronger. She advises not to overstretch and be careful. The hero thinks that this dungeon is too systemic, as if created specifically. Temperature and conditions change at each level. The deepest, no one has reached yet. Mona advises to take clothes for the heat and for the cold, and most importantly, comfortable shoes. It is also advisable to have spare things, as the conditions can change instantly. One of the satellites understands that falling or loss of balance in battle can become fatal. Her advice is really important. Mona reminds that all the necessary things can be bought at the guild store. The hero jokingly notes, she is a born saleswoman. Looking at the gate of the dungeon, the hero remembers a war that depleted the stocks of magic stones in Kul. They need to be extracted immediately. The group discusses the importance of magical stones, the sources of energy required in everyday life. They are like batteries that can ignite fire and create water. Weaker adventurers remain at the lower levels, while the stronger ones are looking for rare trophies above. The hero leads the mucus to obtain these valuable stones. The corridors are dark. Only the moon of steps accompanies them. The hero reminds that even the strongest body is worthless without combat experience. Learning is in a real battle, around the soul. The voltage increases. Finally, they go out into the space of the hall where you can prepare. But something slippery goes ahead. The tears appear at once, a few. From above, to the side. The hero quickly commands, John, to attack the wind. Nenah is the right flank. But it almost breaks under pressure. The hero supports her, reminiscent of training. Battle in full swing. Nenah retreats with a cry, but the hero instantly saves her. The water arrow breaks the mucus. The confidence returns, it lifts the shield and again goes on the attack. The hero gives advice to cut mucus into pieces to reduce their mobility. Nenah responds decisively and rushes into battle, clearly following the instructions. Her blow is accurate. Mucus explodes splashes. Confidence increases. The team moves further. Cooperation and leadership are the key to winning. Ian is not behind. His blows are fast and accurate. The tears do not have time to react. The sword cuts them into pieces. Ian completely controls the battlefield, moving gracefully and decisively. It is concentrated. A magical ray escapes from his hands. A powerful explosion destroys several mucus together. The magic and sword of John create a deadly duet, clearing the path for the team. The main character headed the attack, encouraging his comrades. His voice was heard over the battlefield. "Good work, you are two." Ian and Nenah were courageous through the mucus, leaving traces of gel around. The hero moved cleverly, looking for new enemies without losing the pace. After each victory, the brilliant magical stones remained on the ground, confirming the success of the team. In the cave, there was a roar of blows and splashes of mucus, which flew all the way, while the coordinated team was confidently going to the complete destruction of the enemy. When the battle of the verse, Nenah noted in surprise that the tears were indeed disappeared, leaving only stones. The hero did not feel any fatigue, though he struggled. He suspected it was thanks to charming equipment. Ian confirmed as the action of charm, and the experience, like vital energy, was absorbed into their bodies. Ian explained that it is only worth watching the indicators. The experience increases with each victory. The hero realized that real fighting is much more effective than training in the estate. Inspired by Nenah stated that she wants to develop her skills even more. She acknowledged, despite its initial fear, she is now feeling confidence in her own strength. Their progress was obvious both in battle and in numbers. The group felt stronger and ready for the next trials. They discussed the strategy. Random fights are too ineffective. The hero suggested storing special rooms with monsters. On the 3rd floor, the map pointed to the mucus hall. Ian specified, rooms are allowed only to those who are lower than the rank B and without strong magicians. The group was confidently preparing for the test. The hero warned, not to overstretch, because with their equipment they actually already at B. Ian agreed, promising to accurately adhere to the plan. Going into the room, they noticed. No one came here. In the air, a characteristic spit was attracted, and the mucus began to appear one by one, slowly but relentlessly. The hero solemnly announced, "We arrived," but did not have time to look around as a wave of mucus rushed at them. Nenah shouted. There were too many. The hero instantly commanded to retreat, becoming between the enemy and his comrades, ready to cover them with the price of his own power. Without hesitation, he caused deadly magic, a water cyclone. A huge tornado escaped from his hands, grabbing mucus into a frantic clump. The flow was spinning so madly that even the air was humming from the power of spell. The powerful explosion shook the dungeon. The walls shuddered, and the Kaboom moon thundered all over the level. Ian and Nenah could not believe in what he saw. The hero smiled. The usual attack would not help here. After the battle, the hero screwed the elixir, restoring energy. Magic exhausted it completely. Until the mucus came to life, they quickly collected magical stones and jelly. There was little time, but the group was ready for new depths. Nenah regretted regret, recognizing that her perseverance had led to a risk. The hero took the blame. He underestimated the threat and had to better appreciate the situation. Ian added, even if you do not strike, be near the battle. Also gives experience. This fact confirmed the value of team support. He also emphasized, guilds should be reviewed. Even rank magicians and could suffer. The team decided to act more carefully and systematically. During the night, they tirelessly destroyed mucus, despite the views of others. Nenah surprised everyone. Her level increased, and she opened the land skill. The hero suspected that she was a hidden fighting mania, but the tears no longer gave the necessary experience. They discussed further goals. Nenah, level 60. Ian, 66. The hero proposed to go deeper into the dungeon. Ian remembered the Goblin room on the 5th floor, but the smell of monsters scared. Nenah confessed that it was difficult for her to fight the goblins. Her native village has repeatedly suffered from their attacks. The hero understood it and decided, they miss the goblins. Ian suggested kobolds or orcs, and the hero jokingly decided to leave them for later. The team discussed the adventures lively. The hero rejoiced in the idea of camping and orc hunting. It was an opportunity for Nenah to show herself. They also mentioned the kobolds on the 9th floor. A good drop, an acceptable smell. But they knew. Orcs have a strong body, so we need to prepare. They entered the hall with kobold. Opposite is a large magical circle. The hero defined, it is the point of appearance of monsters. Ian was tasked with covering the door and restraining the enemies on the front line. Kobolds rushed to the attack. The hero kept calm and announced the plan. When Ian is tired, he will change him, and Ian will start attacking from afar. Nenah had to cover Ayana from overload. The battle began crazy. Ian rushed forward, striking with the sword and magic. The power of the wind from his arrows tossed enemies up. The team acted harmoniously, but there were many enemies. Nenah stood on the front, with a shield in her hands, opposing the February kobold. His strokes were heavy, but she confidently kept the protection, waiting for the right moment to answer. The enemy did not stop, attacking in a cheek, but Nenah was not inferior. Her determination did not allow her to step back. Waiting the moment of weakness of the enemy, she rushed in the counterattack. A well-blown stroke forced Kobold to shudder. She went on the offensive. Gathering, Nenah struck. Her scream broke out, and the Kobold collapsed, incapable of defending. Her strength and perseverance were fully manifested. The hero quickly assessed the situation and ordered to gather. He called a water barrier to protect the team. Ian and Nenah returned lightly. The barrier formed a circle, holding back enemies and giving a chance to a break. Kobolds tried to break through, but in vain. The magic wall was firmly. The hero was satisfied. For the first time in battle used such magic, and she worked flawlessly. Using a pause, they began to collect trophies, magic stones and kobold knives. Otherwise, the objects could interfere in battle. Until the wave was renewed, the team was carefully prepared for the continuation of the battle. The barrier was about to disappear, so the hero commanded to complete the battle before everything came out of control. Nenah complained about how difficult it was not to break through the daggers of enemies scattered on the ground. She almost fell, but did not seem. Before a new wave of attack, Ian suggested changing tactics. Instead of active movement, everyone had to focus on magical attacks for maximum efficiency. This should reduce the load and increase the pace of combat. However, Ian remembered that Nenah did not possess magic, so he suggested that she pass on the enchanted weapon, so she would be able to effectively participate in the battle without even having her own magical power, supporting the team. Nenah was caught by the desire to master magic, but the hero reminded that her mana is limited. Ian suggested using monopoyones, though it is expensive. Despite the risks, Nenah was a smile with a smile to try. The hero surrendered and gave her weapons, giving her the ability to call for water balls. Surrounded by a crowd of kobolds, the characters gathered for the final attack. The monster leader robbed, calling for his attack. The hero instantly commanded to prepare, and the magical energy was already in his hands, ready for the next blow. Together with Ayana, the hero released powerful magic charges that destroyed many enemies immediately. Part of the kobolds fell under the flurry of energy, the rest screaming with pain, unable to stop the pressure. Nenah, with a passionate metal, one water ball after another. Everyone aptly impressed the target by keeping enemies at a distance. The hero noted that she exaggerated and advised to reduce his power a little. After correction, she again struck everyone with her fighting, though she had to pause and drink the elixir. After a heavy battle, the team took a break. The hero suggested collecting all the items. When the boys departed, Nenah suddenly engulfed anxiety. She began to tremble and apologize. The hero asked if she wanted to do the restroom. Nenah regretted that she had drunk too much elixir, tried to tolerate. Having realized her situation, the hero stretched a magic bag. Nenah was scattered and stared at him. The hero assured that he would not look. She got even more, but tried to put up with the moment, though she was boiling with shame. She was still embarrassed. Nenah warned the hero that she would follow him, and threatened that their relationship would end if he looked around with one eye. The hero turned away, but Nenah mentioned a magical contract between them, which caused even more inner confusion. The frame moves us to the 15th floor of the dungeon, the 3rd day of research. The cave shakes a powerful rich. They are waiting for a new danger, and the tension increases every minute. The team contemplates the fallen plow. He still breathes after the battle, in shock from an unexpected victory. Nenah still holds the sword, trying to calm down. The hero evaluates the situation soberly. It would be more difficult with the crowd, and they overcame one enemy. The orcs are overthrown. Ian is looking at the bodies with relief, thanks to the peace of the presence of Jinka. When putting the sword in the vagina, he smiles happy. Nenah lifts a huge piece of meat with a glitter in her eyes. He imagines what boiling in the camp. The hero jokingly comments, "Looks perfect for the kitchen." Jink stands in front of a huge gate, tense but focused. He knows there will be a real test. The main enemy, General Orkiv, awaits them behind this door. Ahead is a decisive battle. Ian analyzes the future battle by thinking about the strategy. Nenah prepared to support from the rear until Jink and John had to attack magic. Everyone knew, we need to be full. Everyone had a role in victory. Heroes come into a huge arena. In its center is a formidable general of Orc. It releases low rings that diverges the walls. In the air hangs silence in front of the storm. Jink gives a signal to battle. The battle began with the explosion of force. The general attacked a frantic stroke of the mace, trying to destroy enemies. His power was stunning. Jink at the last moment evades the impact. Ian instantly calls on the magic of the wind, trying to knock the monster out of balance until Nenah covers the allies with the shield. The power of the general was incredible. His attacks were getting crazy, forcing the team to act harmoniously without making any mistake. They had to be as focused as possible. Jink kicks the enemy with a direct blow, causing harm. The general grows in pain, but does not seem. Ian almost falls under a blow, but has time to bounce and warn others. The battle goes to a critical level. Using the instantaneous weakness of the enemy, Ian releases powerful magic. The spell involves exactly the target. The blow is incredible, but the general is still standing. His endurance is striking, but Iana's decisive blow breaks the space again. Finally, General Orc falls, defeated. The body of the monster with a roar is heated to the ground. The blood flows through the arena. The team is going near the enemy fallen. Victory for them. Relief and joy cover everyone. They came out of the deadly battle without serious loss. Looking at the body of the enemy, Nenah finds something strange. Round, soft, and with a strange smell. Thinking that it is a rare trophy, it takes it. Jink is instant understanding what happened. Earlier, they had already sold something like that. He has time to stop it as she raises the object. It turns out, it was Orca egg. The group is shocked and discounted at the same time. Trying to get distracted, Nenah cooks a special stew from the plowed meat. She wants to surprise everyone with her culinary talent, but even despite their efforts, no one dare to eat Eagle Gem. The camp smells of exotic, and a mysterious figure approaches them. His appearance hints something important will happen soon. The meeting between the meadow, the high-quality archer, the guildmist, and the satellite. The bow is politely represented, revealing its title. The master apologizes and announces that he heads the clan of an ancient tree. Guildmaster views Luke, remembering his skills and a glorious reputation. It is a maze that he faces a S-wound adventurer. His authority is confirmed, not only by rumors but also by the presence. In response, the bow is surprised that the master does not have any rare skills like him or Karen. But he reached the top only with his own skill, and it causes a sincere admiration in the meadow. While others are listening in silence, Guildmaster recalls that the ancient tree clan is the third in the influence of adventure in the world. The Hatch is immediately alert. Does the Guilder want to lure them to his clan? Guildmistress' smile becomes meaningful. The group is growing in the group. It seems that the moment has come to reveal true intentions, instead of loud statements. Unexpected confession. Their group stuck in the maze without provision. They crawled here not to recruit, but to ask food. Luke sees a chance and offers an agreement. The Hatch does not want money, only information about clans. Guildmaster willingly agrees, and while he shares his knowledge, a girl named Nenah asks for meat. Her desire quickly fulfills Ian, reinforcing a friendly atmosphere. The scene ends around a generously covered table. The moment of peace and trust combines the characters, changing the attitude between them. Guilders eat enthusiastically, praising food as a heavenly blessing. Mouth is full of delight, and Nenah, who served a dish, moved. There is even a mention of the blessing of agate. The atmosphere becomes almost festive. The Hatch reminds that the agreement has not yet been completed. Thanks to his chest, he prepared a gorgeous dinner even in the depths of the maze. Guildmaster is amazed and does not hide gratitude. Now Guildmaster talks about the three strongest clans, Depths of Hell, Messengers, and the Old Tree's own clan. The latter is considered the third in force, although it is inferior to the first two. In strong clans, the weak serve as live shields in the mazes. Survival is a case. Someone is crazy. Someone dies. It is a strict hierarchy without mercy. Introduction. There is expensive and output is almost impossible. Debts become a trap that is difficult to get out of the consequence. Nenah is shocked. Are these official rules? Guildmaster explains. No, but that's how everything is arranged. The Old Tree clan, on the contrary, appreciates freedom and accepts those who are looking for another path. The reputation of strong clans is terrible even among merchants. Debts, injuries, thrown into the street, warriors. The Hatch understands that if their clan accepts fugitives, it will cause the anger of others and will be in danger. Nevertheless, many blindly join these clans and regret later. The Hatch firmly decides to keep away. After dinner, Guildmaster thanks Luke for the exchange. He jokes whether his speech was enough to pay for food. The Hatch accepts the proposal to go up together, a moment of society and understanding. Finally, the group leaves dark tunnels. Bright light cuts darkness, giving relief. Guildmaster and Nenah happy to see the sun again. A smiling Hatch inhales the fresh air and feels peace that gives the surface after a long stay underground. The Hatch thanks for help with the orcs and says goodbye. Instead, Guildmaster warns that 2 mighty clans have already paid attention to him. This is only the beginning of a large game. The Hatch matches restrained and serious. After the adventure in the maze, he asks the teams about the impression. Nenah is delighted, both experience and gold. But the Hatch feels difficult trials ahead. Luke's gaze falls on Zinka, which seems to think about the creation of his own clan. Maybe everyone will go their way. The Hatch reminds, ahead of the exams, so you need to return to the capital. It offers the rest to relax a little, because the hardest thing is yet to come. In the courtyard of Guild, Luke shows an impressive prey in 3 days. The worker is shocked, asked a little, and received the treasure mountains. Now she is forced to count everything until the Hatch smiles quietly. During the inspection, the prey worker finds an extremely rare trophy, the egg of General Orc. She is very happy, thanks Luke, like a treasure. The Hatch is surprised by such a reaction, but confirms that it is a casual find. She explains that this trophy is valuable and is often used in the creation of aphrodisiacs. The Hatch is just sighing. It is better to orca meat. The new character named Dan appears in the guild and jokes. Lady does not seek so to admire trophies. It turns out that he is a high-ranking warrior with the title of Butcher, and came to the Hatch. Dan is officially represented, praises the Hatch for cleaning the boss rooms in 3 days, and reports he can take a temporary rank B. The exam will be rigid, endurance check. The Hatch should be kept against Dan's attacks for an hour. The guy agrees, full of determination. The Hatch asks the details, and Dan clearly explains. The exam is a real battle. He will not pay attention to nobility, or S-level, will fight the full. The Hatch is a little nervous. He thinks about whether it is right for fighters. But the employee explains. This is a preliminary exam, so you should not worry too much. The test structure will not change. Dan looks strictly at the Hatch and warns. Do not get. No matter who he is, there will be no indulgence. The Hatch nod and prepares to stand out. During the preparation, Dan provokes. They say, this baby with abilities will not have time to understand how it will fall. A real test begins. The Hatch calmly states that it does not get, but warns, in this battle it will apply all its spells. He jokes that Dan's last hairs will be pulled out, showing his willingness to fight on an equal footing. He just laughs, confident in himself, and the Hatch is preparing for a collision. Mona, the organizer of the exam, enthusiastically estimates the large number of nuclei that the Hatch brought. She warns that the test will just start ready, and notices that the agreement between them looks interesting. The Hatch looks completely ready for battle. His body is covered with fascinated things that enhance athletic skills, from necklaces to gloves, boots, and mantle. Each item adds plus 52. In general, the Hatch has an impressive bonus in plus 832, supported by a magic with a level of 52 and 2 mana zeals. It looks almost too prepared. The guy thinks, did not overdo it with protection? But I am convinced. Dan deserves full return. It's not just an exam, it's a challenge of his skill. Dan explains the rules. Endurance exam. The Hatch should last until the sand in the clock is completed without struck. You can use any protection. When the clock starts, Dan announces the beginning, and the Hatch accepts a fighting stable, full of determination. Dan attacks with power and accuracy, forcing the Hatch to put on the full. The sword's face, lightning movements. Both impress each other with skills and endurance. Time comes out. The exam is completed. Both stand, exhausted, but with mutual respect. The Hatch jokes that Dan seemed to be trying to dismember him alive, beating his joints. Dan acknowledges that the trial was more difficult than expected, and affected by the boy's endurance. The Hatch adds with humor that the nickname Butcher of Dan is very much. He agrees. If the enemy cannot move, The fight is complete. After the battle, Dan notes that although the hatch just evaded, he aimed at one place on a blade, gradually weakening it. It was a fine strategy undercover. He confesses, if the battle lasted, his sword would break. The hatch jokingly replies that he just evaded, so he did not break the rules. In his words, cunning and humor. Dan recognizes that he did not notice the trick during the battle. He states with deep respect, Luke successfully passed the exam and even surpassed it. The young adventurer struck everyone with his wit and stability. He confesses that he deliberately provoked the hatch to get out of balance. But the guy was much more sophisticated in tactics than he expected. Looking at his unique weapon, Dan understands how significant its damage was. The hatch mutts something about the old man, mixing annoyance with respect, and Dan turns to Zinka, inviting him to the library for an important conversation. One of the audience disappointedly notes that they were promised easy work. The clash with the hatch became unpredictable, and this changed their perception of the situation. Mona welcomes Zinka on the passage of the exam on the temporary rank B, then lists the trophy obtained: 50-70-234 nuclei, 48-193 knives, and other ORC materials. All of this worth 108 gold, 87 silver, and 138 copper. Employees in shock, someone almost blows from volume, and the hatch only smiles ironically. Dan, Mona, and Luke gathered in the room. Mona reports that now, with rank B, a hatch can travel without security in safe paths. Dan adds that the guy himself is able to take care of himself, remembering the adventure in the court, where he wiped the floor with snow. Luke says he plans to travel himself. Then Dan goes to the case. Does he not want to get a traffic and trade contracts? The guild is ready to give the necessary connections to expand its capabilities as a B-wound adventurer. He remembers the young man who was planted after a fight with a hatch. Although they have already been released, his father, as a guild merchant, insists on resolving the situation. Now this man is in this game. He wants to deal with the case and perhaps to offer an agreement. Dan advises to listen to the merchant and evaluate potential benefits. Merchant activity around the hatch can be useful, but Dan warns, not all merchants are sincere. Luke doubts the benefit of this for the guild, so Dan tells the complex story of one of them. The merchant lost his eldest son. He went out of the way and became a slave. The younger is now in trouble. The father desperately wants to remedy the situation. Dan says, if a hatch wants to trade, it is better to deal with a reliable partner. And at the same time, it is a chance to show sympathy. The hatch rethinks everything. He used to consider this merchant just a rude, but now he sees there is pain and loss. He decides to meet him and get the case. The meeting is prescribed in 2 days. Luke says he wants to close this issue, and Dan thanks him for his willingness to meet. On the appointed day, the hatch comes with Ian. He insists to be present, despite the hatch anxiety, because it is personal for him. They are met by Yorick Lawrence, the chairman of the merchant union, who immediately recognizes John. The hatch opens the meeting, stating that everyone is closing the case at the spot and time. Yorick, the father of John, arrived with apologies and desire to resolve the conflict. Thanks to the son, the arrangement is reached quickly. The hatch forgives the incident, provided that Ian is punished and instead receives a personal trade contract. Luke advises John to spend time with his father. They remain alone to restore family bonds. Returning home, the hatch is happy to welcome the maid. NJ and Mamaz are happy to rush to him. Mamaz immediately asks where Ian, and a warm smile shines on her face. Luke explains that he has left with his family. Angie reports the letter that has come for him and transmits a sealed envelope. Mamaz jokes that she will never get bored with a hatch. The letter is an invitation from Chris to Bran's estate. There are two, who he knows exactly. Slaves. The names make the hatch heart. After reading Esther and Urza, he is shocked. These names are like a blade in memory. The letter is stirring up old memories or shocking connections, and the next trip promises great discoveries. Arriving at Earl Brand's estate, Luke is looking forward to Chris. He meets him with a tense expression and immediately shocks. Luke is a prince. This news knocks the hero out of the track because it opens the truth that can radically change his life. The confused hatch cannot believe heard, but Chris tries to reassure him. He explains that this is true, and asks to listen carefully to what will turn all the boy's idea of himself. Chris says that the hatch is not the heir to the House of Nonland, as he thought earlier, but the illegitimate son of King Rosarda. This discovery destroys his idea of the past and his own origin. The events have become known only recently, and now the royal family of Rosarda in crisis. Chris adds that Esther and Urza have escaped the situation. The hatch silently perceives shocking events, understanding he is at the center of conspiracy and struggle for power. The situation becomes even more alarming when Will, Karen, and Bogard appear. Will says they came with people that hints at something very serious and urgent. The Rage impatiently asks where Esther and Urza. He wants to see them immediately, hoping to understand what is actually doing. Seeing shocks him. The girls stand on the side, in broken clothes, look exhausted and depressed. Their appearance causes a wave of indignation. Aware of the depth of the suffering they have experienced, Luke barely restrained emotions. He no longer has doubt. Something extremely cruel has happened. Angrily clenching his fists, the Hatch demands the truth. He wants to know who brought Esther and Urz to this condition without accepting any excuses. Chris interferes hastily, assuring that the situation is not as it seems. He explains that the girls themselves asked about it as a way of repentance. Karen adds that the girls insisted that they be treated strictly. Only so, in their opinion, they can redeem the blame before the Hatch. The Hatch is full of misunderstanding, which means their repentance. He cannot understand why they voluntarily became slaves. Will finally reveals the truth. It was Esther and Urza who were involved in the exile of the Hatch. They voluntarily became slaves, hoping to get his forgiveness through punishment. The Hatch is stunned by the depth of their act. Karen jokes about Esther as a maid, but Hatch is not laughing. He tries to grasp all these emotions that have fallen on him. Becoming a Hatch, the Hatch looks into the eyes of the girls and assures that he is glad that they are alive. He does not need an apology or pencil. The main thing for him is that they are goals. But Esther and Urza can't accept it. They still ask for punishment, believing that they betrayed him. Karen intervenes by ordering Esther to speak with Luke sincerely. And annoyed, the Hatch interrupts her, asks not to call him Zinka-sama. He says he is not angry. On the contrary, it was thanks to them that he survived and left the country. Their support for him is invaluable. Moved to the depths of the soul, the Hatch hugs Esther and calls it his younger sister. He firmly states that they are now a family forever despite any past. Tears roll the cheeks of Esther, which for the first time allows themselves to feel forgiveness. All around, Karen, Chris, Urza are silently observed, moved by depth of this moment. After the emotional scene, the further life of the girls is discussed. Karen decides that Esther and Urza will remain under the care of the Hatch. He in turn promises to give them enchanted things in response to devotion. Luke explains that he cannot officially release Esther now because the political situation in Rosarda is too unstable. But so far, it will only formally be his slave, for her own protection. But Esther, full of determination, states that he wants to serve a Hatch all his life. Urza joins her. Their devotion does not please the Hatch. He sees in it not freedom, but a burden. He also notices the change of the title. Now he is officially Bastard King Rosarda. Someone laughs at the Hatch, calling him his brother, that idiot. A prince who fell into dysphensority. Karen tells the news. The queen filed for divorce, and the alliance with her native land is torn. The incidental prince is exhausted. The throne is empty. It is a harbinger of a possible civil war that threatens Rosardi. The position of the Hatch becomes even more shaky. The country is boiling. Public execution is being prepared on the square. The convicted person shouts about a mistake, appeals to his status, but the crowd desires punishment. This is a sign that a catastrophe is rising in Rosardi. Before the execution, the man states that he once heads the famous House Non, but does not have time to finish. The guillotine blade breaks his words once and for all. The scene changes. In the royal capital, Tak is ordered to open underground prison. Repression is spreading. The authorities are brutally deal with the former nobles. The exhausted prisoner in the chamber slowly raises his head. On the neck, a plate with a name. The guard warns not to wrap anything. He is under close supervision. In the royal settlement, there is a figure of a nobleman. He complains about his prison and orders to stay in the village until further news. Obviously, his power is no longer infinite. The room includes a nobleman with a harsh look, and from that moment it becomes clear. A new round of political struggle is coming, and the old order is finally destroyed. The young king gladly welcomes the newcomers, calling him his father. But a sudden change in tone when he asks about the purpose of the visit and receives a bastard in response instantly turns the meeting into a conflict. Without any hesitation, the father beats his son. Their interaction is full of fierce shock and pain, which expresses a long-standing split between them. Betrayal, hatred, and bloody family drama flashes in a few seconds. An angry father causes another blow, throwing a flurry of image and accusations. He says that everything would be different if the son was holding his mouth on the castle. He, stunned, in vain tries to ask a little respect. However, there is no answer, just neglect. The father calls him shame and says that he does not need a son who is just a burden. Humiliated and offended, the son is immersed in reflection on his own position. The stunned guy considers himself dead, died by the hand of the one who had to protect him. The pain is aware that the father is finally crazy, but he only watches with dark determination. In the look of his father, hatred. He states that this zinc has destroyed his fate. There is only one desire in the boy's head, revenge. His thoughts are filled with the desire of blood. The word kill sounds in his mind again and again, as if the bell, which is spreading over the city. The insults and rage are intertwined, creating a fanatical desire to destroy the abuser. A voice full of fierce proclaims, "I'll kill you, Zinc." In the center of the frame there is a giant building, similar to the arena, perhaps this place of decisive collision. Library with high shelves, 4 characters in festive dress, one says. The rest listen carefully. He confesses that he did not expect his return to Qualler would turn that way. But already there, he decided to take exams at the academy. He recalls that after a 2-week stay in the capital, he returned to Gamal, now with a new participant for the study of mazes. The newcomer in the armor, with a cape and spear, solemnly states that she will try not to keep up with Jan and Onisams. Nenah and Jan correspond politely. Harmony in the team is felt from the first words. One of the participants asks if he really is convenient in the armor, noting that the magic on it is weak because he put them in hurry before exit. The guy replies that everything is fine, and it is important for him to wear a gift from his older brother. Zinc asks Jan and Nenah to support Esther in the maze. They agree without hesitation. The status of Esther is presented. Level 23, has magic, spear, healing and elements. It has a storage box as a gift, and is a slave under the guidance of Zinka. He is advised to train in the orc room for 3 days before going to a new maze level. Young is in doubt whether he is too early to fight the orcs, but Zink and Esther are reassuring. He already has experience in battles. Esther mentions the humiliating order Karen Sands, but quickly changes the topic, trying to maintain dignity. The team discusses a training plan for Esther. Special attention is paid to the development of magic, manipulation of mana and improving the battle with a spear. His tendency to the magic of wind is mentioned. This is exactly what learning will focus. They discuss the future route and care for Esther as a team member. One of the girls asks if he will have to drink a lot of wires. Nenah jokingly confirms, adding that it may be inconvenient. Another girl with a mischievous mood plans to tease him so that he feels all the difficulties, including frequent hiking in the toilet. A group of maids receives orders to stay in the house while the main team goes to the maze of Gamel. Angie and Mimosa enthusiastically undertakes the case, showing seriousness and dedication. The hero advises Bange and Mimsy not to leave the house, because now he has a certain reputation that can attract extra attention. But the maids are convinced. They show their enchanted swords and promise to repel in case of danger. Mimosa is concentrated for any danger, and Esther is politely represented Moni as a younger brother Zinka. Her reaction is a genuine surprise and a warm greeting. Zink immediately asks whether something has changed during his absence. He seeks to quickly catch up all the news that could take place in his absence. In response, Mon wondered if he had ever heard of named monsters. Zink confirms that he is familiar with this concept, although it seems that he has not yet encountered them directly. Mona explains that such monsters arise when the souls of the dead settle in creatures, changing even their appearance. They retain intelligence, memory, and ability to speak, which makes them dangerous and unique. She adds that the orc general on the 15th floor, which they had previously won, has now become a named monster. This news is stunning the puppy and Esther. Their faces express anxiety and distrust of what heard. The newly called orc general stands threatening, squeezing a giant axe. His voice whispers, "Zink, to kill." A testimony of obsessive revenge. His body is tense. The look burns with rage. The atmosphere in the boss's room is imbued with danger. The characters are stunned by meeting the enemy that risen with consciousness. Mona explains that now that he has a human mind, winning it will become much more difficult. The anxiety is increasing. But suddenly the unexpected manifested itself. The monster actually became weaker, which causes a real surprise in the pupil. Anna adds that now the orca attacks have become easier. In his past life he has been aggressive against women, so it can be distracted using a bait. Sometimes even beginners can win it. Mona explains that although the 15th floor became lighter, then the congestion began. The flow of inexperienced adventurers has led to confusion. The situation on the 16th floor aggravated. Beginners jokingly call the top of dork, combining orc and fool. Mona asks Zinka to help those who got into the mess to avoid deaths due to delay. Zink agrees to help his enchantments. Allows you to use healing unless it causes him a lot of trouble. Meanwhile, Esther is fighting on the 15th floor. At the decisive moment, he performs a powerful attack by arrows, demonstrating his skills in battle and strength. Bester uses the water ball spell, attacking enemies. Comrades enthusiastically note how much he grew up in his own magic. Jan gets gratitude for support. Esther constantly drinks a potion that causes other jokes about the toilet. He feels that he grows, becomes stronger. One of the comrades is concerned, but recognizes, thanks to magic, the guy can do more than it seems. Nenah tries to push Esther in a friendly way, but it is not easy for her. His difficult past and discipline makes him vulnerable and at the same time strong. After 3-day training, Esther rose from 23 to 57th level. Before the next step, the team is given 10 minutes to rest. Jan takes the role of the advanced, reminding that, despite the weakening, the orc general remains a threat. Esther notes that Nenah is better kept behind, because the enemy has a perverted nature. When they approach the magical circle, the space is filled with a depressing aura. With the roar, a named orc appears. The eyes are burning with hatred of the pupil. Everyone is preparing for a hard battle. Zinc recognizes in the orca the spirit of his enemy, Prince Eliota. He has always been rotten in his life. Yen specifies whether it is really the same Elliot, and Zinc confirms. The old conflict has got a new form. For the puppy, this battle is fateful. He decides to destroy Eliota on his own and produces a fireball. This is his first attempt to use a new magic against the eternal enemy. But the attack causes only slight discomfort. The enemy almost does not respond, only grinds. Zinc is annoyed with the annoyance that while it only has the basic level of magic of fire, Orc did not even feel a real blow. The general begins to crack, screams woman, trembles, loses control, seeing the spear in the hands of Esther. All in confusion, not understanding the strange reaction. Orc Elliot shudders in pain when he is injured by Esther's spear. The monster continues to murmur the woman, losing concentration until Esther keeps his attention. Esther keeps calm, directing the spear at the enemy. It is concentrated and ready to fight to the end. General Ortag Reeve, calling Zinka, but Esther continues the pressure. Esther deliberately provokes the enemy, becoming a target. He rushes forward and strikes the monster with a powerful blow. Without fear, he demonstrates strength and courage, causing a decisive blow. His determination in the fight against the enemy is undeniable. In the final attack, Esther cuts the orca in half. The horror in the eyes of the enemy lasts only a moment, until life leaves the body. The strength and determination of Esther shine in this decisive moment. Zinc is silently watching the general's body falls, commenting that he never thought to see such a scene here. Nenah gladly shows a strange object, Kadam. Ian recognizes the symbol of hunger related to the past life of the monster. Others mention that Mona said, such things are more frequent since Eliota. Zinc remembers Eliota's fate, dropped from the throne, probably executed. Souls with deep insults are more often monsters. Now Elliot is doomed to resurrect again and again in the maze. This is an endless punishment. Finally, the group reaches the 20th floor, the Crystal Zone, one of the most popular among adventurers, moisture and tight but full of trials. Looking at the terrain, they notice precious stones, raw emeralds and diamonds, which explains the interest of many seekers. Zinc decides to earn up a little. Nenah and Esther are delighted. They also want to try themselves as miners. But Zinc reminds digging requires strength. Putting up the picks, he warns not to overstretch. IN notes that geological features indicate a high probability of finding emeralds. Zinc is interested in asking where he knows it, and he advises digging near the brilliant crystals. Stroke, Zinc praises Yen for the non-standard use of material evaluation skills. Nenah happily announces, it is time to dig. Nenah is enthusiastically demonstrating a green stone, a real emerald, Esther confirms. Both rejoice as if children. Zinc smiles. They really enjoy the moment. Yen, holding a pile of emeralds, smiles. He will have enough. Zinc asks why he does not dig further. Yen replies that he wants to try something else because even the debris can be useful. Zinc causes a giant golem with the help of magic of earth. He explains that he has trained this skill and wants to use it for digging. However, the consumption of mana is great, so time is limited. Zinc recalls that according to Guild, there are many traps at the lower levels. The goal can help with their neutralization. Yen agrees, this is a truly useful creature. Currently, Zinc wants the goal to simply accelerate the production. Yen hears noise and asks what is happening. Zinc replies, this is a dispute between two clans. MS series clans and Purgatory Depths argue through digestion. Some of the team notes that it looks childish. Zinc realizes that it is better to complete the digging as soon as possible, so as not to get into a stranger. The group reaches this 21st floor field zones. Zinc is delighted with open terrain. Esther asks in surprise whether they are still underground, because everything around looks like a real field. Zinc explains that green calves are found here. Their meat is better than orc. Nenah rejoices. He wants to catch more. Esther was also hungry. Mona warned of dangers, but Zinc is certain they will cope. Zinc announces, "It's time to get calf meat." Esther instantly replies, "Yes, sir!" But giant ants appear in the shade, tearing the body of the prey, reminiscent of the danger of the area. The protagonist reaches a large beast, a green calf, and prepares meat for dinner. His movements are accurate and confident as a real hunter. 2 companions are nearby, ready to help with processing. One goes forward, taking a cue. Everyone is happy. The meat is enough for them and for the sale of the guild. After a hearty meal, everyone rests on the blanket. The main character is rejected, satisfied. One praises food, the other smiles with pleasure. The conversation goes to local fauna. White cows and minotaurs are a common thing. Their milk is as delicious as meat. 2 white cows are grazed nearby. One of the friends notes that the magic of the protagonist wind has improved. He is advised to try the arrow Terranado. He agrees, but warns. The radius is smaller than that of a cyclone. Others discuss the meat of minerators. It is not suitable, but their weapons are too heavy. The protagonist is alert. 2 strangers come out of the grass. One supports a wounded friend. They barely hold onto their feet. They fall nearby. The protagonist, concerned, asks if all is well. The stranger replies briefly, "You need to run." Ants. The characters are puzzled. The man explains that they accidentally came across the nest of the ants and became victims of a cruel attack. A sinister shadow stands above the ant. The question of the rest of the group of strangers with bitterness answers. Only they survive. The protagonist offers assistance in exchange for information. He treats the wounded, at the same time learning. Some ants are weak, but their strength in number. They attack claws and spit out acid. Their protection is strong, but they have weakness to fire. It is alarming. Zinc has only recently mastered the magic of fire. Others mostly have the elements of water and wind. It will be difficult against ants. Strangers warn that it is difficult to move after the 24th floor. Ants guard their queen. Only large clans of magicians can win. Heroes decide to go on, avoiding battle if possible. Strangers thank you for their help. The protagonist chooses the next step. To go carefully but confidently on the 24th floor. Friends keep behind him. One satellite notices that the hero thought. They reach the 24th floor, a wide, open space with pastures and steers. Someone comments, "The area is larger than expected. This is probably through the ant nest." The hero evaluates the situation. His gaze slides on animals. He analyzes their behavior, perhaps feeling the anticipation of the disaster. The group remains alert. Suddenly, cattle runs away. The earth trembles. The hero asks, "An earthquake?" One friend notices something and points out. A flock of giant ants breaks out of the bowels of the earth. Heroes rush hard, running away from the avalanche of nails and acids. One ant grashes a team member. He fights in despair, shouts to leave. The ant becomes more. The situation is exacerbated. The protagonist sees. Thousands of them. Will they have enough strength? One of the friends is poured with acid. It will scream with pain. Another rushes to help. Ants are even fierce. The hero evaluates. At least 5,000 enemies. He doubts whether magic is enough. The younger friend is waiting for the decision. One proposes to throw strangers for survival. The moral dilemma hangs in the air. The hero thinks for a moment. The idea makes sense, but he immediately rejects her. Recognizes. It will break the spirit of the team. He assumes responsibility and orders to scatter a pack of spells, drink mono potions, preserve dignity. Determine the battle. In present comrades, promises. Everyone will survive. While the foreigners shout, "Wait!" The hero goes forward without betraying himself. He tells strangers, their team will hold the enemy. They should flee immediately. Those shocked call it madness. But the hero insists, time is short. They need to run right now. With tears of gratitude, strangers agree. The hero rushes forward, heads the battle. His team stands a wall, covering the escape of the wounded. The team launches a spell against the pack. The water cyclone whirlwind knocks down dozens of ants, and the tornadoes picking them up in the air. A powerful combination of the elements for a moment stops the attack, demonstrating the coordinated determination of the group. The protagonist confidently cuts the enemies with a sword, one by one cutting out ants. Its concentration and stability are adamant. It holds the front without fluctuations. One of the allies causes a storm that rejects most of the pack. The junior participant covers the shield and throws explosive spheres, engulfed in the accumulation of enemies. The coordination of actions gives a brief rest. The protagonist drinks the potion of mana, realizing that they are depleted by the endless waves of the enemy. Younger comrades are already tired, and the lack of fiery magic prevents the use of the weakness of ants. You need to change something. Urgently. It creates a water wall, creating a barrier for protection. Esther and Nenah sounds loudly, ordered to move inside the shelter. Younger fighters, though exhausted, are gathering obediently near him. Inside the barrier, it soothes them, urging to restore the strength with the help of evil. Keeping calm outside, he is looking for a solution inside. Continue battle means to die. He decides, the only way is to reach the Queen of the Ants to destroy the swarm from the inside. But she is far from the center of the pack, protected by Commander-in-Chief Ants. One of them, marked as General, is visible in powerful physique and exceptional characteristics. The protagonist begins to build a breakdown plan. He removes the orca meat from the inventory, strung on the sword, and throws it into the crowd. It should distract part of the ants and create a passage. The bait works. Some of the enemies rushes to it, giving a chance of breakthrough. This is the first step to implement the next strategy phase. The protagonist rushes forward with the sword, breaking through the lines of enemies. Some ants are still chasing him, but he does not stop. One of them spits acid, but the hero is evading and counterattack. His movements are accurate. The goal is to break into the center, despite the fierce resistance. He destroys the Mermuse commander in one blow. The swarm immediately loses some of the coordination. The effect is noticeable. Ants begin to get confused, click in chaos, losing orientation. The protagonist understands. This is a chance. It is necessary to destroy more commanders, and the whole flock will fall apart. It gives the command. Yen has to scatter orca meat with the wind, distracting the ants. Others focus on long-distance attacks on commanders. Esther and Nenah, when recovered, immediately confirm the readiness. Nini and Esther are instructed to cut through the path by magic, opening the space for Yen. The hero himself announces that if he gets close enough, he will destroy the queen himself. The group starts a coordinated attack. The earth trembles when ants respond to movements and the team breaks into the core of the pack. Yen skillfully controls the wind, scattering orca meat in the battlefield. Strong gusts create chaos among ants. Nenah and Esther produce air tornadoes and air cyclone, cutting through the swarm. Coordinated attacks disorient the enemies, opening the path to the queen. Teamwork changes the course of battle. Yen accurately scatters the ants. Nenah with a shield and a spear cuts enemies with determination. Together, they keep the pace, shaking the coordination of the enemy. Yen punches the path of wind gusts, and the protagonist launches a water cyclone that destroys the rows of ants and sows chaos. The group is confidently moving forward. In the distance, the queen appears. A huge, creepy figure rises above the battlefield. This is the last border. Everyone is preparing for a decisive battle. The protagonist converges with the queen in a duel. Her elongated paws and threatening appearance are pressed. He holds the sword without looking. His will is unwavering. The queen is screaming, calling a pack. In her look, death. The protagonist stands immobile. He knows that this battle is everything or nothing. The status of the queen is striking. Athletics 61, Bite 50, Command 31, Intimidation 29, Breeding 51. Its size and control over ants are terrifying. But the protagonist does not lose faith. It is difficult to defeat the sword, but he sees. Her attacks have weaknesses. He closely monitors the movements, looking for a break in defense. It throws a fireball directly into the target. The flame explodes on the breast and front paws of the queen. The flame covers her torso. It is ending in pain, losing control for the first time, but instantly contradicts, pushing the hero with massive feet. He barely evades the impact. The pressure increases. The battle becomes fierce. The hero evades, using her weight against her. Powerful kings of the queen break the earth, but he skillfully maneuver, keeping the advantage. Although the hero is skillfully evading the attacks, he realizes that the real problem is not to avoid blows, but to the task of harm. Its shell is too strong, so it is looking for a weak place and a new strategy. Recalling past tactics, he decides to limit her mobility. It begins to circle around, causing accurate strokes into the joints of the legs. Slowly but confidently, it deprives her of the ability to move. But the attack of small ants forces him to retreat. Acid splashes do not allow to focus. The situation is complicated. One of the allies causes an air cyclone that sweeps small ants. The team coordinates actions by creating a space for the hero so that he can focus on the queen again. Coordinated work gives preference, and resources are depleted. The hero decides it is necessary to finish the battle as soon as possible. collects forces for the final blow while the allies restrain the waves of the enemy. He notices a chance and sharply shortens the distance to the queen. The sword to the head, a powerful, accurate attack. The hero does not stop. He cuts her legs, depriving her balance. The queen shudders, roars. He makes her new blow. The body begins to fall. One blow, and another leg is cut off. Without motion, with damaged antennas, it loses control of the swarm. The hero is preparing for the final last blow. With a loud cry, he lifts the sword. It has a determination to put an end to this nightmare. The swarm is disoriented. The connection with the queen weakens. Their offensive fades. The last blow falls on the target. The queen's body deftly turns the ground. The battle is completed. With the death of the queen, the ants in a panic run. They no longer have instructions. The group is going together, watching the swarm disappears in the distance. Exhausted but alive. The strategy worked. They share a calm moment of relief. The victory was expensive. Everyone is aware of how close they were to death. The hero thanks his comrades and apologizes for the danger he is drawn into. One replies no one was injured and the strategy was successful. They evaluate the situation. It turns out that they received a rich trophy. One of the comrades suggests that victory over the enemy of rank A can give the hero a temporary A rang. They decide to collect prey and use the magic of wind for transportation. Someone jokes, "Counting trophies is the hardest part of the battle." The atmosphere was slightly relieved. A few days have passed. The hero thinks, does he really deserve A rang? He diminishes achievements, believing that he has defeated only one strong enemy. In the guild he receives a reward, together with an instructive lecture, not to risk life in vain. The hero and his comrades are sitting in front of the guilder, who officially recognizes their participation in the battle with Swarm. They are told that they saved several adventurers of the rank B. They give them 3 platinum coins. This is the equivalent of 300 million yen. The hero is shocked and hesitates to accept such a large sum. The guilder emphasizes that the reward is well-deserved. Without his intervention, Rescued accurately died. The hero accepts money with gratitude, aware of responsibility. The guilder woman with the serious look is reminiscent of the deadly danger through which the hero passed. She asks to protect herself, not only as a valuable sorcerer, but as a person who is worried about. In her voice, a sincere desire not to learn about his death. This is Mona. She apologizes for asking to help other seekers, but the hero assures, everything was his decision, and there is no guilt on it. Before Mona, he says, there are those who are genuinely worried about him. She asks to remember it on the way. After these words, he goes to call a guilder, leaving the hero thought. After her release, the team discusses the Misu. It is evident how much she worked. Everyone is grateful for her sincerity. The room includes a new figure, an experienced adventure seeker. He stops his gaze on the hero and begins a fierce conversation. He criticizes him for a reckless risk, not only his own life, but also the life of his comrades, in his harshness, anger, and care. When Guildmaster criticizes the hero, Esther stands up for his defense, causing a conflict. But the hero interferes calmly, agreeing with the remarks and promising to be careful in the future. Stunned by the hero's responsibility, Guildmaster stops criticism and changes the topic. It has important news that immediately attracts the attention of everyone in the room. Guildmaster reports that the guild branch received information that aristocrats from Rosarda penetrated into the country. One of them accidentally expressed himself because of superiority. Under the pretext of security, they turned to the guild, but suspicious behavior caused anxiety. They set the observations, entrusting the faithful seeker's shadow. Subsequently, the purpose of the conspiracy was revealed: to return the hero to Rosard and to make him a king. This is bold, given that he was kicked out before. The hero asks whether he or she violates the Guilder of Privacy. He explains, clients lied, so they lost their right to protection. Since they acted, it is considered personal and not international. The guild has the right to inform the hero about everything. The hero asks the names of the conspirators, but they have not yet been established. However, he guesses. It is someone of faithful throne, but not a current prince. Everything indicates one person. Guildmaster confirms that there is a Marquis Tinner, a cruel aristocrat, known as a common people. After his father's death, he headed the royalists. Tinner is in the capital, and does not know that the hero is in the game. This is a temporary advantage for the hero. The hero weighs the risks. He plans to warn the allies of Kiss and the Holy Flame, as well as evacuate the maids to the family estate. The guilders explain that the adventurers from the Laner tried to avoid conflict between the two clans, but got into the ant swearing. The hero assures that they did not cause direct harm, but their appearance disrupted the prey and forced to stop the expedition. One of the officials of the guild proposes to file a complaint against the leaders of both clans. They only interfere with the seekers. The hero agrees. The tension between the depths of the purgatory and their rivals increases. Guildmaster recognizes it is increasingly difficult to control them. Guildmaster advises the hero to be careful and not attract attention. The hero thinks about this warning. A storm cloud hangs outside the window. The city breathes a brown anticipation. Everything around hints. Big events are not far off. Meanwhile, in the headquarters of the messengers, the leader in anger remembers the hero calls him disdainfully Magician Klopchisko. It is angry but cannot act without Gerbert. In the environment he recognizes, the hero has a high rank. Without Herbert, decisions are not made. So far they are forced to keep calm, waiting for a return. He remembers Herbert and the Third Army that went down to the depths of the maze. Waits when he learns about events. The voltage in the air increases. At the depth of purgatory, dark figures discuss the conflict with the envoys. The guild has intervened and the compensation requirement has already been submitted. The attendees remember the puppy. His actions are not gone unnoticed. One of them proclaims a strict order from the Kingdom of Nazar. The pupil needs to be killed. The atmosphere becomes difficult. The plot hangs over the world. It turns out, depth leaders are Nazar's agents. They were sent to Kulus for intelligence and secret actions. The mission is to disrupt any attempt at the Zinc to fix themselves in the country. Queen Melissa decided not to restore her stepson on the throne. Murder is a simpler way. It becomes clear. The exile of the puppy was organized by her son Elliot. Family betrayal goes back to power. The depth coat of arms shimmer on the background. Nazar is afraid of Zinka. He has not obeyed and wants to stay in Qual. This is a threat to their plans. The task of eliminating it was conveyed by depths of purgatory. If they fail, they suffer a harsh punishment. Leaders recognize the task is difficult. You need a performer worthy of trust. One of the highest members of the depths goes forward and voluntarily takes the mission. He is confident in his abilities and plans to substitute the messengers, creating the illusion that they have attempted it. The plan includes the creation of chaos in Kual and destabilization of the region. A few days have passed. Zinc, Yen, Esther, and Nenah are going. Zinc reached the level of 147 and fascinates the objects for the team. Yen is already 126 levels. Esther, 85, Nenah, 97. Everyone recognizes that the battle with ants became a turning point for their development. During the discussion, Nenah celebrates her 13th anniversary, and for a moment a warm family atmosphere, full of light humor and friendly joy, prevails between travelers. The group is preparing for a new hike. Zinc announces, the next goal is to reach a safe area on the 26th floor, leaving behind the walls of the ants. There begins the area of eternal permafrost. Frosty lands are known for a cruel climate that only experienced seekers can withstand. They discuss the need for winter equipment. Yen has never been in such conditions. Nenah worries how cold it will be. This time their goal is not resources, but advancement. Esther confirms readiness. Traveling with picturesque fields, Zinc remembers Jinkar's past in Japan, thinking what is the real fierce cold air. Yen and Nenah cheering on each other. Despite the unknown, the team is strongly moving further, ready for new trials. The 26th floor meets them with a piercing wind and icy towers. Even Zinc confesses, it's worse than Japanese winters. He calls everyone not to stop, use physical enhancements, and go straight to the boss room. Yen creates an air barrier that protects against the wind. All are pressed to each other and move on. But suddenly a flock of icy wolves break in. The attack appears ahead. Yen quickly responds with a air cut and Zinc, water arrows. The combination destroys enemies or forces them to flee. The group moves through the icy wasteland. Watching the frost even changes their magic. Zinc notes that his water arrows turn into ice. Nenah asks what potsicle is. Zinc promises to tell later. Finally, after 2 days of travel, they reach the boss room. Before the battle, Zinc demonstrates a new invention, a huge metal golem with runic symbols created by alchemy. The group is affected by its power. Esther and Yen look with delight how Zinc makes the golem easily lift heavy objects. This gives the team confidence in winning the future fight. Going into the next room, Zinc hints that has a new idea but does not reveal it. The intrigue is growing. The temperature changes. It has become warm. They shoot winter clothes, getting ready for battle. The room with round labels on the floor and hum of the stone hints at something important. Something moves in the shade. A massive acront appears with a roar, classified as a rank A. His scales sparkle. Zinc quickly analyzes. Excellent physical shape, a bit and a threatening aura. Physical attacks are ineffective. The scales are too strong. Zinc orders to avoid direct collisions using magic and keeping away from his jaws. The Acutant rushes forward. Yen barely has time to dodge. Zinc prepares the spell, and the beast is aimed at Esther. He lifts the shield, getting ready for a blow. Yen launches the air cyclone, knocking down the pace of the enemy. Esther holds the defense, throws a signal of a pupil that accumulates a manu for a decisive attack. The group is synchronized. Zinc causes a water tornado that covers the acroclet. He roars, falls under pressure. Esther, Yen, and Nenah are reunited again. The instant victory. Esther thanks the puppy for the strengthening. Yen notes the lack of special abilities from the monster. They enter a safe zone marked with a magical arch. Nenah sighs with relief. You can finally be a little rest. The camp gathered seekers, messengers, and purgatory members. The atmosphere is tense. The face is exhausted. This level has become a stop for many. Zinc is inspected by the crowd. Everyone has traces of fighting. Some strangers look at them with interest, but without hostility. The crowd distinguishes one figure. He is approached by Leon from the Old Tree Clan. Thanks for his former help from the Orc Rag. His sincerity contrasts with the cold atmosphere. Invites you to a quieter place. There, Zinc treats Leon with hot white cow milk. Unexpectedly but warming. Leon says that cold conditions are particularly difficult for children. He draws attention. The younger members of the group have already fallen asleep from fatigue. Even adults are difficult at this level. Leon explains. Their detachment is part of the Third Army. They support the First and Second Army, delivering inventories and information. There are several units from other clans in the camp area. The place has become an important logistics node. Zinc notes that some have been exhausted here for weeks. He offers Leon water in exchange for information about the next floors. At that time, the group prepares green calf meat, dinner after a hard day. One friend processes the carcass, the other is prepared for the supply. Meat is enough for them and for sale. Everyone gathered on a picnic, enjoying the warmth and a full meal. One praises the taste of the dish, above expectations. The other is delighted with dinner. The conversation goes to the local fauna, white cows, minerators, around a real beast. 2 white cows graze nearby. Their milk is as value as meat. One of the comrades notes that the magic of the hero's wind has intensified. It is time to try the Eternado. During the training, the hero gladly accepts advice, feeling confidence that with a new spell he will be able to better support the team. However, it is a little worried than a short range than the cyclone, so it restrains expectations. One of the satellites discusses the meat of the minerators. It is not suitable for food, and the temporas are too heavy for battle. At this point, the hero notices something in the grass. 2 exhausted travelers come from bushes. One supports the other. They are difficult to go forward. The leader encourages the wounded friend. There is very little left. 2 fall near the hero group. Concerned, the main character runs up, asking if everything is fine. One of the finds briefly, but immediately asks the command to run. In a faded look, despair. The hero, surprised, tries to understand the danger. The fugitives say that they came across the ants and survived a miracle. They were attacked by a whole swarm of monsters. One of the strangers with horror recognizes. The rest of their team is probably dead. A shadow of a giant creature appears above the Rees, which hangs over everyone. The hero, without the experience of fighting with the similar, offers healing in exchange for details. He assists the wounded, listening carefully to every word. He explains that ants do not pose a threat, but their numbers are a real nightmare. They attack claws and spit out acid. In battle with them, not skill, but endurance and fire. Their body is covered with a solid shell, and only the flames are real weakness. The hero is disturbed. He only recently studied fiery magic, while his comrades have mostly the elements of water and air. Strangers warn that it is dangerous to move. Only strong clans with numerous magicians can overcome the 24th floor. The hero thanks for the warning and decides to move forward carefully but confidently. One of the satellites notices the hero's mind. The team reaches level 24 and finds itself in a wide open area where large horned creatures graze. The space is huge, similar to a plain hidden among the dangers. One of the group members notes the scale of the terrain, more than expected. The hero watches the creatures, trying to understand whether they are threatening or just a part of the ecosystem. Bastard animals suddenly break from place and run away. The group tenses. This reaction indicates danger. All instantly go into combat readiness, looking around. The land shudders. The hero guesses that it can be an earthquake. But immediately there is a suspicion. Something is approaching. One of the satellites screams, pointing to the source of vibrations. They rush a swarm of giant ants. Everyone rushes to the go-on, making every effort to break away from the monsters. But one of the ants catching up with a friend and grabs him. The hero tries to help, but the number of enemies is growing. The situation becomes chaotic. Shouts, pressure, acid attacks. It becomes extremely difficult to survive in such a pressure. One of the team members falls under an acid attack. Hands burn the hellish liquid. Someone is going to the rescue, but the swarm does not rest. The hero is shocked to estimate the scale. More than 5,000 ants. He doubts whether there is enough magic to restrain them. The strategy is necessary immediately. The scene changes. There are 4 on the lawn. A young man with a confident appearance explains something to women. One looks alarmed. Another man listens silently, reflecting information about betrayal and spies. They discuss whether it is possible to trust the guild store. One recalls that Dan warned him of danger, though he had reason to act against him. Trust and doubt. The other argues Dan could cover the spies. This causes differences in the group, because the question concerns the loyalty of the leader. All tense, the situation is becoming more difficult. Memories are overwhelmed by new doubts. Dan once helped the father of one of the participants. It creates an image of a reliable person. But was it sincere or a cover? Everyone thinks on a complex dilemma. One of the women emphasizes, 2 spies have been found. Both refer to Nenah. Another warns the next steps should be careful. The muscular man insists, the reaction will show the truth. The young leader decides, they have to leave the maze until it gets worse and report the guild immediately. He collects everyone by explaining the plan. It is important not to show that they suspected something. Everyone should behave naturally in order not to raise suspicion of enemies. A young girl enthusiastically assures that she is already old enough to participate in important missions. In her eyes, determination and belief in her own strength. One of the comrades is good, natured from its passion. The girl is embarrassed, but this moment gives her even more determination to prove her readiness. The camera shows a majestic building. The discussion goes into a serious phase. It turns out that the depths of hell are related to Nazar agents who have been in secret for over a decade. All stunned. Dan, who is referred to as a leader, silently analyzes the information. When he is asked to make a decision, he says, if Nazar is involved, the case must be handed over to the king. There is a new meeting in the furniture. Dan explains that the very fact of the presence of spies does not give reason to destroy hell. One of the guys proposes to act on his own, to catch the killers and to leave the policy to the states. The muscular man firmly says that undeniable evidence is needed. He voluntarily goes to the maze, wishing to witness the attempt. His duty as a guild waster is to find out the truth on his own. The atmosphere is filled with determination when the plan begins to embody. One of the members of the group suddenly looks at Dan and raises him a question, forcing the leader to think about the true motives of his comrades. Dan retains calm, though he realizes that others have calculated his steps. One of the members of the group coldly hints that he cares for himself, demonstrating a new, tense shift in relationships. Guildmaster recognizes the loss of trust and his mistake. He takes responsibility for the situation and swears to make a contribution to the future mission. The group agrees to go the next day. After that, Dan remembers his past. A good penetration into the depths of hell. Closing the door, he remains alone with his thoughts, preparing for the calls ahead. Outside of the village, one of the men encourages a friend to join the mission, causing the seriousness of the trip. He squeezes his fist in silence. Determination reads in his eyes. The young leader is carefully writing a message for the king. Sealing it, he understands the meaning of this step. Everyone is preparing for departure, which will become a turning point. He takes a vial with a serum of truth, thinking about its purpose and moral ambiguity of its use. In the memoirs, the House of Nonland, which used such remedies against enemies. He never thought that he would reach this. Awareness of the conflict between conscience and the past compresses his soul. The next day, the group is gathering in the forbidden area. One participant is masked to avoid recognition, and the other tries to discharge the atmosphere with a joke. The leader squeezes the serum bottle, preparing for the dangers. Before descending into the dungeon, they discuss how to help Danov keep up. He is presented with enchanted bracelets that increase endurance, although some members of the group are still watching him closely. Reaching level 14, they finally stop after a grueling race. One of the fighters complains at a frantic pace, barely holding on his feet. The leader is quietly reminiscent of the arrangement. Everyone pulls their own burden. The rest is short because it is still safe. Fatigue is not an excuse in this team. During a break, the group enjoys luxurious food. One of the warriors looks at the dishes. Struck by Nenah's culinary talent, he feels defeated in this battle. In a light atmosphere, the leader asks Dan about his passion for excitement. He confesses that he used to play until his wife forced him to tie. The leader suggests that you use the serum of truth that once belonged to the Holtz family. He confesses that he is not sure of its effectiveness, but wants to check it on enemies. He offers a non-standard game, a booze with diluted serum. At the same time, she explains that in large doses, it causes severe anxiety and mental instability. Dan calmly assures that he has antidotes and others heal. However, one of the members is at risk and asks to refrain from mentioning the harm that the substance has already caused. The tension increases. The leader proposes to drink the first as proof of sincerity. Condition: if Dan wins, get a platinum coin and the ability to dine with them. Dan is skeptical of the game, warning the consequences. Angry, Dan is indignant. He is suspected of betrayal. He protects his honor, accusing the leader of distrust. There is a conflict between them. The leader decides to divide the risk they say, honestly. Dan accepts the challenge, internally preparing for a strange but important duel. Dan boldly and confidently warns the opponent to be careful, promising that he will win in this competition. Serum vials are exhibited. The cups are placed. The group is focusing, waiting for this unusual match to end. The competition begins. They drink in turn, and each sip increases the voltage. In Dan, the voices from the past that brand his words about failure and expulsion are torn before his eyes. Despite the inner torment it holds, the leader is watching carefully without losing vigilance. It's not just a competition, it's a fight against your own fears. Both on the verge, Dan makes another sip, grim-eating, but does not seem. The leader also drinks, holding back emotions. Dan laughs, challenging, and puts a bowl. He is ready to win. The action of serum increases, and Dan begins to see the terrible visions. A curved figure appears in front of him, shouting, "It's your fault!" Her ugly face causes horror and shame. At the same time, the memory of a good friend who has always supported him. Failure to pierce the soul, he realizes that he had to act before, at any cost. The memories roared. He once said goodbye to a strong adventurer who broke after their separation. Dan then believed that everyone has their own way, and it was normal. Subsequently, he was reported the terrible news. That man was killed during a campaign, probably because of Nazar's hell. The fact that he once thought rumors now seems true, and Dan begins to doubt everything. Squeezing his fists, Dan is sharply aware of Nazar's involvement, and imagination covers memory with bloody splashes. Betrayal burns in the chest, gaining the forces of anger, which matures in determination to pay for the spilled lives that he did not protect. The feeling of guilt presses, because due to indecision, many fates have been destroyed. Dan recalls how influential aristocrats blocked any investigations of hell. Now the chance created by Zinc gives him hope to expose enemies and no longer run away from his own responsibility. Having come to, Dan with a firm dedication states that he will not allow other people's hands to the puppy and friends. His voice is full of challenge, and the gaze radiates the unwavering determination to protect until the last breath. When he has dizziness, he sees around disturbed allies, and despite his weakness, confirms his willingness to fight together. The new morale covers a detachment, turning past mistakes a step forward. The young leader falls on the knee before the day, sincerely regretting the use of the truth serum. The apology sounds convincing, and repentance enhances trust, opening the way to deeper cooperation. Others also apologize. Dan accepts their apologies and emphasizes that you only have strengthened his intention to destroy hell. At the same time, the team thinks of how the killers receive secret data and decide to get to the source of leakage. In-depth interrogation opens an ancient episode. Dan recalls 5 years ago when he collided with a member of Hell and was defeated. He still does not understand whether the event is related to the current leakage of information. The leader concludes that it is necessary to take the killer alive and find the truth from the first mouth. Thus, the group receives a new, clearly defined task for further movement. There is an explanation of the rare ability of the gift of empathy, which allows you to dive into the victim's thoughts once every 10 days. The huge mental price of this force makes it a dangerous but valuable tool in hunting for truth. Meanwhile, in the distant jungle thicket, shouts are heard, hinting at the unfolding catastrophe. The plot lines begin to intertwine, enhancing the alarming anticipation of the great threat. One of the hoods is solidified by unbearable pain, holding his head, as if invisible power breaks his mind. Panicked comrades try to understand what is happening, and any help is in vain. It is explained that the victim just used the empathy to communicate with Guildmaster, but this time something went terribly crooked. Someone suggests that they have been exposed, and now the response destroys the psyche. Panic is growing. Some think that the information is leaking out, while others are afraid that the Guildmaster responded with a mental blow. Everyone is looking for the guilty and getting out of the coming catastrophe. The leader with dark eyes orders all the murderers of the maze to move immediately. He seeks to eliminate the Guilder before the situation gets out of control, so he announces a bloody sentence without hesitation. The noise increases, the previously wounded empathing throats on the ground. Others quarrel, remembering the puppy who brought them to madness. Under the influence of fear and anger, the unity of the sect is destroyed in the eyes. The sky is suddenly tightened by giant wings. Their appearance adds horror. One of the hoods, in despair, repels the helpers. Someone else shouts that they have been shown. Everyone is preparing for a fight. Their faces are fossilized with fear. The quarrel flashes. It is suggested to throw the unconscious Jay as a bait. Others are indignant, but are aware of hopelessness. They remind that there are almost no chance against 3 obese, and time is floating. Someone in a panic escapes, apologizing for the betrayal of comrades. The rest remains in a hopeless trap between moral principles and the desire to survive at any cost. When the outrun is rapidly rushing to the helpless Jay, he does not even have time to realize the threat. The jaw predator is mixed around him, and the dragon lifts a bloody prey into the cold sky. The wings of the monster are waving, the splashes of blood fly down, and the remains are rocking in the air. The horror in the views of the audience emphasizes the impotence of people in the face of wildlife. The remains of the detachment, covered with panic, run away from the pursuers. Their leader remembers Zinka with hatred, swearing revenge, while in the distant camp he sneezes, knowing nothing about the bloody promise of enemies. The second group arrives on the icy 26th floor. Frost pierces to the bones. Participants tremble and complain about the cold. But the leader proposes to act on the tried and tested plan of a fast march. Someone, frozen to despair, asks the pupil to cause a warm creature. The hero is embarrassed that he is not familiar with the art of call, causing a wave of indignation among frozen comrades. They explain that experienced groups use Slay or Salamander as natural heaters. The team also rests on the air curtain and lanterns, demonstrating ingenuity despite the absence of attachment magic. Zink is convinced that their high endurance will allow you to just go through the cold. Dan skeptically calls this approach rude, but there is no alternative. In order to encourage everyone, Zink shows a new fiery spell in the palm of your hand, promising heat inside the curtain. Dan, covering the face from the wind, agrees and takes over the observation. The team moves forward. Zink supports the flames. Dan controls safety, and the rest focuses on the conservation of forces. With each step, the cold recedes before cohesion. Finally, they enter the boss hall of the 30th floor, where they face a huge arcana. He is attacked, but the fighters meet him with a coordinated attack. A powerful magical spell and a precise blow with a blade break through the monster's defense. Arcana shudders from critical harm and for a moment slows down, which causes a wave of confidence in the hearts of heroes. The team brings the matter to the end of the lightning finale. By directing the joint efforts, they overcome the guard of the floor and lay a solid foundation to promote further, aware of the power of their own unity. The enormous body of Arcana falls deftly to the ground. Less than a minute of battle. Dan keeps calm but does not hide the admiration of the team's skill. Their coherence and strength made it easier to overcome another floor of the maze. After the victory, the team discusses further actions. Zink suggests relaxing, but one of the fighters warns. Not far from the safe zone is full of influenza and something rot. Despite this, the camp is broken, preparing dinner. Nenah with a smile serves lunch and dessert. A white cow's milk. Everyone feel relief. Zink reminds that the next wave of monsters is an hour, but if something comes before, they will use it for experience and trophies. During the meal, there is peace. Zink jokingly offers Dana food, but he refuses, they say. A young hero is still growing. Among the smiles, there is a light shadow of past images. Zink insists that he has already released the past and advises to do the same. He teaches the plan. They will succeed in studying the tropical floor at the same time by moving the Helliers, knowing all the strategic points of the area. Among the dense thickets, the team discusses the difficulty of movement. Zink proposes to use the skill of perception. Everyone agrees, but Dan notes that this advantage can also work on the enemy. Zink calls all this a test of endurance and mind. The same raises a serious question. The Helliers have access to the internal data of the guild. Their influence is too great. The team goes to the safe zone, hearing a formidable roar. The group enters a crowded settlement. The leader warns everyone to keep peace. Despite external confidence, the atmosphere around is tense. The views are alert. They try to merge with the crowd. Some of the locals look indifferent, others with a slight suspicion. Everyone feels that the presence of guests did not go unnoticed. Some residents watch especially carefully. Their views permeate, the movements are caution. The team retains a mask of indifference, realizing that any mistake can be too expensive. Having installed the camp in the jungle, the team relaxes a little. One of the members joyfully comments on the presence of a bath hidden in a magic storage. The resource and preparedness of the detachment is striking. There are only wild, dangerous tropics around. The group is amazed that the Helliers do not attack. The mission may have been suspended, or enemy is strategically. Zinc is exhausted by a week of tension, but the determination in it is only increasing. He notices that the level of perception has reached 6. It is indicative of progress. Smiling, Zinc decides to test a new power. The jewelry in the hands is shimmering, emphasizing the importance and responsibility of the future battle. Zinc explains the strategy. He activated fascination and perception on accessories, which gives it an overview of almost the entire floor. But during the concentration, it will be completely defenseless. The team is in a protective formation around the pupil. When the magic is activated, a dazzling light explodes around it. The magic of extraordinary power comes to life in the glow. With eyes closed, Zinc focuses. His enhanced perception covers everything around. In the mind, silhouettes are flashed, from small animals to humans. He feels their emotions. 4 infustors settled near the way to a safe area. They are waiting for the moment to attack. One of the allies notices the traces. It confirms that the enemy knows about their presence. Zinc realizes that they are monitored, but enemies do not show activity. This gives you the idea that they may not see or hear them directly. To check the hypothesis, Zinc announces the observers aloud. The absence of a reaction only confirms the assumption. Spies do not have direct access to conversations or vision. The team is experimenting to finally see. Observers are standing without responding. Suspicions are strengthened. Preparation lasts, everyone on the congregation following an invisible threat. Suddenly, Zinc feels a splash of hostility. His instincts are wary of reacting to the change in the atmosphere. He silently scans the space and the ally asks for danger. She grabs for weapons. Zinc explains that the threat is increasing because the team is split. Although the infantry does not work openly, their intentions have become much more aggressive. Zinc proposes the plan. To use yourself as a bait to bring enemies to light. This is risky, but it is necessary to reveal them. He decides to go with Nenah, leaving others to get around the enemies from the rear. Dan is worried about safety, but Zinc assures that they can withstand Nenah. The team recognizes Nenah's power. With additional amplification, it will become a powerful support. Everyone agrees to meet as soon as the trap works. Zinc and Esther begin to implement a plan by simulating workouts with water magic. In fact, they prepare an environment for a poisonous trap. Water contains a special preparation from Non-Land's home, which after activation turns into gas, which inhibits mental activity. The team took the antidote in advance and is ready for effect. Nenah prepares food to mask the smell of the drug. Wind magic helps to spread the aroma by luring enemies into the poisoning area. During the preparation, Nenah fades for a moment. She realizes how serious the situation is. It's not just fighting monsters, it's a trap for murderers. She understands that the Helliers will not spare anyone. To protect the pupil, you will have to cross the moral boundaries. Zinc sees her determination and silently admits she is no longer a simple village girl. While Nenah is putting food, she sincerely thanks the owner for his support and promises to put on the full. Zinc is mildly reminiscent that the main thing is to keep itself, and asks not to forget about its own safety even during surgery. They exchange confident smiles. Zinc involves Nenah in the final stage of preparation, noting that without its help will not cope. There is mutual trust and command unity between them. Nenah has a fun and playful spoon with food to the mouth. Her movements are light, as if a joking support gesture, which adds warmth and comfort to a tense atmosphere before the battle. Zinc with delight takes treats, exaggerating the praise of its culinary skills. Nenah tries to wave his compliments, but she can see. She rejoices in his recognition. Dan is surprised to watch their closeness, expressing a slight surprise. However, another friend, confident in her observation, reassures him. They say the situation is under control. At this point, Zinc and Nenah continue to enjoy the warmth of her closeness. They are invisible to themselves. They become the object of observation of enemies that hide in the forest and suffer from difficult conditions. The dam moves through thickets full of hatred and despair. Their figures radiate a threat, and the steps are determined to destroy everything that will rise on the way. The sprayed poison begins to act. Enemies lose concentration. Zinc with a friend is watching the fog weakens the enemy's will, making them vulnerable to further action. Although the trap has worked, the command remains voltage. They understand. The moral limit is shaky, and even the victory can leave a bitter taste. The cries of angry enemies are heard from the forest. Masking is revealed. Zink and Nenah retain calm, preparing for the fight, and the rest instantly occupies combat positions. The enemy falls directly into the trap. The group, armed and coordinated, unfolds the counterattack. They do not hesitate because they know it is a moment to act decisively. Opponents surround them, threatening to pick up the provision and Nenah herself. Their leader acts forward, demonstrating strength and arrogance. The atmosphere is tense to the edge. Zink does not retreat, restrained analyzing the situation. Nenah remains collected, although her eyes can see anxiety, but they both do not intend to give up. The attackers mock them without realizing that the trees are hiding behind the trees. Zink and Nenah are preparing to repel, knowing that any movement can change everything. Meanwhile, the enemy plans the offensive, hoping to quickly win and escape from the hellish heat, but they do not take into account all the effects of scattered toxin. Under the influence of poison, enemies behave more and more. Losing coordination, they rush forward. Nenah with a shield is alert, and Zink carefully analyzes their condition. The fight explodes suddenly. The enemies are rapidly attacked, starting a tough clash where each blow decides the fate of the team. The earth shudders from stupidity. The crowd attacks Zinka and Nenah, but they do not fit and get up, are ready to accept the call. Zink reflects attacks with accurate and cautious blows, avoiding death. One of the attackers involves, but Zink skillfully deviates. Nenah protects the flank. The flame projectile takes off from the arms of the Zink, burning the attacker. His cry is cutting the air. It is no longer a game, it is a battle for survival. New attack. Zink barely evades. The blade flew close, leaving the wind in danger. The fight is becoming more fierce. Zink contradicts again, knocking down the enemy with a powerful blow. Near Nenah is parked the attack and corresponds to the shield. They hold the position. One of the attackers grabs Nenah, grabbing by surprise. It zooms, and Zink rotates with horror. The eyes are burning with anger. She is thrown to the ground. The enemy hangs over it, not allowing it to escape. Nenah is fighting, but the situation is critical. The pressure grows every second. The attacker mocks, humiliations with words, holding on. Nenah resists with the last forces, but her eyes do not seem. They burn resistance. Zinka's anger reaches the limit. It trembles from rage. Nenah does not break and confidently proclaims her master, full of devotion and strength. She doesn't give up. A powerful blow of the leg knocks the enemy out of balance. He fades with pain. Kruskit, a witness of her determination, are heard in the forest. The man shakes, shocked and exhausted. Nenah proudly rises, feeling the power inside. The shield gives the attacker. The blow is accurate and decisive. Another enemy contradicts instantly, causing a magical attack. The flow of water rushes to Nenah, but it is skillfully evading, keeping calm and morale. Nenah stands adamant. In the chaos of battle, she is not inferior to the steppe. Reflects blows, evades and retains determination. Its spirit is invincible. Nenah punches the enemy with a fierce exclamation with a shield. The sound of the blow is crunching. Her courage and strength capture his comrades. She goes to the front, proving that she is able to stand next to the strongest. The battle becomes frantic. Esther is lightning, knocking out the enemy out of balance. The leader of the opponents screams orders, trying to gather a confused army. Zink rushes forward with the sword, trying to break the rows of the enemy. But the attackers are only now aware of. They got into a carefully planned trap. Zink and Esther act harmoniously. Strokes are accurate, movements, like a dance of death. Zink turns the sword, reflecting the attack, and Esther in chaos is one more. The whole battlefield is a whirlwind of dust, steel, and cry. Dan cold-blooded cuts the enemy. His blade leaves a bloody mark. A decisive expression on the face. He will not stop until he wins. His movements are accurate, like an experienced killer. In the midst of the battle, Dan mentally thanks Zink. Thanks to him, he felt a thirst for life, as if he had returned at a time when he was young and fearless. Winning the enemies, the team is gathering among the bodies. Dan gives orders to connect prisoners. Zink approaches the confused Nenah, offering a break and warmth after experienced. The detachment rests near the waterfall. Zink asks Nenah she went to wash and put the camp with Ian. One of the fighters is fond of her endurance and maturity despite her young age. The prisoners are being interrogated. Zink extends to him a vial of truth, hinting, it is better to admit now than to waste time. The prisoner splashes in the face of Zink, but it retains coolness. The silent call hangs in the air. The voltage grows. Zink with the calculated threat is embedded with a burning dagger in the ground near the captive. The flame almost touches the skin, a warning without words. The confidence of the captive disappears. The eyes expand from fear. Everyone around is intensely awaiting the next course. The atmosphere thickened to the limit. The detachment discusses whether it is necessary to resort to painful methods. Zinc is coldly viewing options. There is no pity in his voice, only a strategy. One of the warriors remembers harsh training that prepared them for such situations. The cries of the captive only emphasize the darkness that prevails during this interrogation. After all, the weight of fear and pain breaks. He is ready to speak only stopped torture. Meanwhile, another enemy in despair tries to escape, not believing that he is being held by such a young fighter. But the power of the young man is undeniable. The gap in the possibilities is felt immediately. The young fighter demonstrates fiery magic. The flame burns the skin of the captive, forcing him to shout. Calmly, without emotions, he warns, this is only the beginning. Standing and strictly, the young man compares the enemies with the monsters he won earlier. His confidence and power is frightened by even silent observers. The prisoner does not stand, begs for a mercy, and is ready to tell everything he knows. His voice trembles with fear. The young interrogator watches this with a removed calm. He thinks in passing what it looks in Nenah's eyes. Meanwhile, other prisoners scream curses, threatening revenge. In a cold but calm tone, the young man explains the prisoners that they are waiting for: torture, death, or slavery. Their destinies depend on cooperation. He hints that punishment can be even more severe. The atmosphere is exacerbated. Every word pushes prisoners to choose. Threats work. The prisoners begin to speak. It is revealed that hell was used by the name for recruiting and destroying adventurers. The conspiracy with merchants and spies is exposed. The situation is deeper than they thought.